That.
Good evening, everyone. We are here tonight for a public hearing. I'm hereby calling it to order. And I would ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Keel.
Present.
Councilmember Brasden.
Present.
Councilmember Spain McLaren.
Present.
Councilmember Vera.
Present.
Councilmember Soriento.
Here.
Councilmember Casey.
Present.
Council President Steele.
Present.
All are present.
Council President, I move that the council resolve itself into a committee of the whole for the purpose of conducting a public hearing.
Clerk, would you please call or please read the notice of call?
The City Council of the City of Troy will hold a public hearing on June 16th, 2025 at 5:45 PM in the City Council Legislative Chamber, Troy City Hall, 433 River Street, a fifth floor, Troy, New York, in connection with the following matters: ordinance amending Troy City Code Chapter 285 to establish a planned development district at 74 New Turnpike Road.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. The rules of the chair are pursuant to section 2.34 of the special rules of the Troy City Council. I would ask anyone who wishes to speak to come forward and give their name and address. Thank you. Do we have a microphone ready?
Yep. I'll put right on the bottom.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is that working okay?
Yes, thank you.
Andy Brick from the Brick Law Firm on behalf of the applicant. We're here this evening to recharge the batteries in the microphone. We're here this evening to request that you consider a PDD for our project at 74 New Turnpike Road. It's the former Leonard Hospital site, approximately 6.8 acres. We're proposing 86 tiny home rental units with 137 parking spaces. You have seen this one is not on.
I know,
Yeah, sorry.
we know.
You have seen this project before. We were before you back in March, but we couldn't schedule the public hearing because we needed a secret determination, which we received from the planning board. So at this time, we're asking you to act favorably upon the PDD so we can continue with the project. It's an exciting project. It's kind of the capital district, and we're looking forward to answering any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Does anyone else wish to speak as part of the public hearing? We now have a microphone, so we'd love to hear you. Second call. Does anyone wish to speak as part of the public hearing? Please come forward. No, this is just a public hearing on the tiny home development. Right. Thank you.
That part is after.
Yeah, we'll have that later in the evening. Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on this particular project as part of the public hearing? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento, second.
Second.
Councilmember McLaren, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is hereby adjourned.
Oh, that was that.
We had somebody speak to the cover.
That was smooth.
Are we, you want to mute till
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Troy City Council Finance Committee meeting. It is June 16th, little after 6. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember Keel.
Present.
Councilmember Brosnan.
Present.
Councilmember McLaren.
Present.
Councilmember Vera.
Present.
Councilmember Soriento. Councilmember Casey.
Present.
And Council President also present for the moment. This evening, before we begin our regularly scheduled agenda, we have the pleasure of welcoming Brendan Kennedy to present to us the long-awaited Q1 for 2025. So Brendan, I'm going to turn it right over to you. Or I'm not.
Council, I first wanted to introduce Mike McNabb, our new city comptroller to the city of Troy. Mike met with each of you for a very brief 2 seconds earlier. And folks, Mike McNabb, our new city comptroller, who is temporarily appointed until the council acts on his permanent appointment, and we hope that you could put that before the July council meeting. We could ask you to hold a finance prior to that, or, a hearing. Okay. Real quickly, I cannot say enough how far we've come in terms of the accounting of our finances. As all of you know, when we took office, the books weren't closed, requisitions not done from 2023. March was the last requisitions were done. Long story short, fast forward, BST has really turned things around. We filed our AFR on time this year. The 2023 audit complete. Comptroller's office has that, and the 2024 is underway, the audit for 2024. I cannot say enough about our comptroller's office. I know this sounds like a broken record, but Brenda will tell you it was a long and winding road when requisitions aren't recorded, etc., and the book's not closed. Gabrielle, the comptroller's office, has done phenomenal. Seamus, deputy mayor, Rick Morrissey, I cannot say enough about them, but we have taken a turn in terms of the accounting. Tyler Technology has already begun the transition to go from the 1980s antiquated system to the new Tyler technology, which is fantastic. And, Mike will be very pleased once that is implemented. Do know that BSP, one thing that you'll hear loud and clear at the end of this is BSP will be transitioned out now that Mike is on board. And that transition literally began today on Mike's first day. So Carol Ann, who is a BST employee, has been recording the requisitions, etc. And she will transition out at the end of the month, which Brenda will talk about in terms of next steps. So that's huge, and we cannot say enough about Mike joining our team. One of the things that we look for when searching for a comptroller was, can the comptroller be a comptroller and the deputy comptroller for now? Because we are going to obviously transition the comptroller's office. Gabrielle has some ideas. Mike will have ideas. But one of the things that we're focusing on, not just at the comptroller's office, but every department, is building that bench. Because unfortunately, the history of Troy, the department head knows what's going on, and unfortunately, all the staff may not. So we're really doing a lot of work in terms of team building, in terms of not just the office knowing what's going on, but also building that bench. And the two departments that you'll mostly hear about tonight, one department, the fire department and police, they built a good bench. They have it, they're very strong. Our other departments are not. We're working on that because it's just decades old of not building that bench. So we're focusing on it, but like I said, I can't say enough about Gabrielle, James, Britt, and everyone pulled together, and we're truly happy and pleased to have a family. So thank you, and Brenda will take it away. One last thing. Brendan was unable to break it down by the codes. I know that, you know, when Andy was here, I myself, the prior mayor, and Andy worked together on the reporting and broke it down with the codes. You'll have that within the next couple of weeks. Brendan didn't realize those were the prior reports. Long story short, fast forward, he's working at the city of Rensselaer. You can blame Irene for that. But he has other clients that he has to attend to, but we'll break it down and give us that within the next couple of weeks. So, but saying that, this will give you a picture of where we are, and I'll turn it over to Brendan, and hopefully we have some
Yeah, I wonder if we could
batteries.
just take a pause for just a sec to see if we can't resolve this sound, because folks at home are not going to be able to
Sure.
hear what's going on. Could we temporarily,
And she's got it. Wow, for now,
oh, this is the second time she's put batteries in.
we're good.
Okay, everyone
Okay.
hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. All right, off we go. So. No, I didn't bring an electric.
And we'll take
So, I attempted to follow Andy's report, as the mayor indicated. The way I ran the expenses was in a much more consolidated manner. Now that I see how Andy did it, it could have been done pretty easily. The timing of this Q1 report is entirely based on my availability, and it's just very difficult to manage all that's going on without disappointing someone. So finally got to it, put together some summarized numbers for you folks, attempted to do the footnotes the way that the previous comptroller would have done. And so, you know, going through, the goal was just Q1 to see how we're doing relative to the budget. Obviously, there are things that transpire. Things are not always that final number divided by 12. Sometimes things pop sooner than later. And again, you know, putting together these reports, it is a little cumbersome because there's really no button you press where it spits out. It's getting various reports together, various pieces of data, and going through and assembling that way. So when you turn to the Q1 revenues on the general fund, for example, I thought the most relevant number to property taxes is what you collected through Q1. All right. Obviously, when you have your tax lien in the beginning of the year, that's your revenue for all intents and purposes. Obviously, if you're not going to collect all of that, there's reserves. So I went with what was collected, and that's your real property tax number. You can see you got about 55% of it. I understand you bill twice a year, so that at first threw me off until I realized, speaking with people who actually live in Troy, that some people actually pay the full tax amount up front. And so therefore it may make sense that your property tax collections for the year might exceed 50%. Similarly, I tried to go through anything where there was an anomalous from either the budget or from the prior year. And there should be some kind of footnote there with my attempt to explain what happened and what's going on. You know, what makes the revenues particularly difficult when assembling this report is again, those, how the data is done on the modified accrual basis of accounting. And so while the property tax is cash collections, everything else is just pretty much spit right out from KBS. And so often when you look at things like grants and your local sources, which includes your sales tax and some of those other things that you get, that is on a bit of a lag. So your sales tax for Q1 is going to get collected subsequent to March. I think it comes in sometime in May or even June. And that's the timing issue. When we do the year-end financials, or when Andy did the year-end financials, or whomever did the year-end financials, there's accruals that are done. We book receivables, we book payables, we book those things. Those traditionally are not done during the year based on my review of Andy's reports. And so those kinds of accruals are not reflected in here. Okay. So I'm not sure how you folks want, if you probably don't want me to read the report verbatim, but if there's questions specifically.
Just, I think we'll take the questions as we,
Sure.
if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Council members, any questions regarding the revenue for Brendan?
Council President,
Councilman McLaren?
is there any way to know as far as the sales tax? Would Q4 of last year at least help
Sure.
so that when we look at that, there's not a panic because
Yeah.
there's,
Understood.
there's nothing,
Yeah,
you know,
what-
would that be comparable to, or at least close to what
Yeah. So what
Q1 would be?
we accrued, or what came in the actual money that came in during the first quarter
Right.
was about $2.9 million that was accrued back to 2024 as part of that audit. And I do think that was fairly comparable. We could probably have the certainly for the Q2 report, whatever came in during that time period, so that we could compare
Kind
that.
of close up, because you said for the real property taxes, that is what is like cash in hand, what has
Yes.
currently been collected.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you collected cash in hand on sales tax. So I think it was like 2.935 million.
Okay.
Which was that was an accrual back to 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
No, Council President,
Councilman Vera?
just sort of following up on Katie's question. So we did in fact receive a check from the county for sales tax.
You
for
get one
Q4.
quarterly.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so similarly to prior years, that Q4 check is going to get collected in February or March of 26. So there's always a quarter lag. That's accounting.
There seemed to be a jump in public safety. Is that fees collected?
We'll have to look into that for you. I can get you the breakdown of those numbers year over year.
Okay.
This is big.
Your footnote I see says vacant building fees, but
Yeah,
I'm just curious if there's anything else that,
No, just the
Accounts for
vacant. That was the main.
because year over year, it's quite a jump as well.
Yep. Could be timing. Again, if it's of particular interest, we can drill down and get you the exact, but as I look at footnote 3, I apologize for that, realizing now, that was the revenue line item that had spiked.
And then I saw that for recreation, we had estimated 1.4 million. We only collected 52,000 in the first quarter. Is there a big ticket item that we had banked on that's going to hit later in the year?
Yeah, not many golfers in January, February, and March, so that'll pop.
Okay, so that's the entire golf course then.
Oh yeah, very
Yeah,
little
okay.
golf revenues. Yeah. Yep. That's the primary part of that. And that's why it's hard too, when you look at these quarterly reports, you want to almost annualize, and that percent achieved is going to move. So, and who knows, maybe because of the weather, golf is down this year, and that's something we can keep an eye on. I know I certainly haven't been able to play every weekend, but your big golf months are going to be May, June, July, and August, right through October, and then it'll start tailing off again.
Oh.
I did have a conversation.
Yeah, you.
What's included under the miscellaneous line item? I saw the footnote 6, makes mention of TRF funds.
Yep. Those, right now, those TRF funds have not been collected. If you want a breakdown of the miscellaneous accounts, we can certainly do that for you.
And then I just happened to notice that interfund revenue is identical to what it was last year. And I believe that's also identical to what it was in 23. Is that an estimated number?
No, it's your budgeted, it's your budgeted cost allocations from what the general fund charges the other funds
Okay.
for overhead cost. And so that number is literally the budgeted amount divided by, 12 times 3. These are some of the manual journal, as we transition Mike on. These are some of the manual journal entries that, we got to make notes about so he can carry the torch and get those posted. That's got to be done every month. So I have circled miscellaneous so I can respond to you, Councilman Vera, as a follow-up.
Thank you. And then interfund transfers, the 1.4 million that's listed there, the budgeted amount, that's the water fund.
That's the
Right.
profit distribution. That's a budgeted number as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
I think traditionally the city has waited to ensure the water fund actually has a profit.
Right.
To transfer. So Andy may have in past done that entry monthly. The past 23 and 24, we just did it at the end of the year.
Okay.
That was a Q4 adjustment. So if the water fund's looking like it's going to have that money, then, we could conceivably start making that transfer.
Excellent. Thank you.
So specifically, I'll follow up on the miscellaneous for you, Councilman Vera. Just so you have those codes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
And if you would share that with the entire council,
Yeah.
we'd appreciate that.
Of
Thank you.
course.
Any other questions from council members on the general fund revenues? Okay. Moving on.
All right, so now moving on to the Q1 expenditures, and like I said, we will get you. I toyed with it a little bit today. I just didn't have the time. For example, I realize now that everything in the system that's coded 401 as a subcode is utilities, and so I played with the utilities today just to see how that would compare. And sure enough, it was pretty easy to put together. So it's just a matter of time to get that. I can tell you specifically, utilities is ahead of budget. That was the only one I didn't. And that's partly due to the fact that the way we record our national grid credits. But I'll have that for you folks. The way that the expenditures are organized and the way that the OSC chart of accounts, salaries are 0.1s. I combined the 0.2s, 3s, and 4s. That's the middle. Employee benefits, and then the interfund transfers. So a couple of things just as I was going through the numbers, we realized that the pension expense, that's what's missing in Q1 24. That's a footnote. I can assure you that your employee benefits are not up that much comparative. This year we posted that pension entry because we got 1 year smarter. So the numbers, I think if you had posted that last year, it would have been an additional 2.3 million or whatever I said there. Similarly, interfund transfers, the bulk of the interfund transfers are going to be to the debt service fund. And as you look at footnote 4, that's one area of homework we have left to do that we'd like to clean up before, Mike completely takes over. So the way that the payments work, we pay the principal and interest out of the debt service fund, and then the water, sewer, general and sanitation fund have to make an interfund transfer to that fund to in essence, fund those. And so that entry needs to get done. And that's the interfund. The only item that kind of caught my eye is something to keep your eye on. Should probably not be a surprise. When I was going through the payroll and I noticed that in all the other funds, it was almost spot on 25%. That's something that, should be fairly ratable during the year because our salary increases and things like that. Just looking at the salaries being at 27% of the utilized budget. I kind of focused in on the overtime, and this will be, this is all the overtime. And I understand that the report that will get you will break the overtime down to the various components. The overtime has used 40.8% of its budget year to date. And so obviously that's the kind of information I think the council wants to know, so they can keep an eye on it and do your monitoring procedures. Obviously there'll be accounts during the year that we have to probably make some kind of budget transfer or budget modification for. But that's obviously one to keep an eye on. Nothing else really caught my eye. But again, you'll get that detail for your own purview, and you can, pepper me with questions going forward.
Council President?
Councilmember McLaren.
Thank you. You said that the OT had taken 40% of the budget. You said year to date. Did you mean Q1?
Q1, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
thank you. Good correction. Yep. Q1. The budget year to date is that 3,248,000, and we've utilized 1,325,583.
Thank you.
And that's all of your overtime. And I know, again, going back to that report that Councilman shared with me, there's
Break
stub
that.
codes to break that down.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Council President.
Councilman Vera.
I'm sorry, I think you mentioned, but debt service was not included on this, or it was included?
The transfer to the debt service fund is, you can see it's only $62,000. We made debt service payments in Q1. We need to reflect the general fund's portion of those interest and principal payments. They need to be reflected in this transfer.
So the 62,000 then includes codes 600, 700, and 900? So on previous, I'm going back to that example I had sent you.
Yeah.
And so there's code 6 and 7, 600s and 700s
I'd-
that
I'd-
are debt service.
Debt service is the one that has not been posted.
Okay.
And then obviously, whatever ARPA funds as well, that's another reconciliation that's got to get done. We know what's ARPA spent in terms of the CM fund. And then we need to, basically, that's a debit to the liability, a credit revenue, then you transfer the money and so on and so forth. So there's a couple cleanup items.
I understand you're going to get me the breakdown, but do we have, and this might be a question for the mayor, do we have any thoughts behind why we've consumed 40% of overtime in the first 3 months of the year, or why the salary line item exceeds 25% with the number of vacancies that we have?
Okay, more details.
I mean, year over year, it's comparable, but yeah, the budget number is the number I'd be looking at as well.
Council President Stew.
Councilmember Casey.
That is, somewhat concerning. I realize it does happen with the overtime, but I think it's just a question for administration. I'm sure you're aware of it. Have you been taking any steps, or what's going on with the staffing or manning? I would assume a lot of it's police and fire. Have you been taking active steps to try to cut this number down?
Was that a question? Were you were asking them if they?
Yes, what, if any, steps have you been taking to try to, have you upped the manning, or what have you done to try to rein this in at this time?
Well, regarding fire, you're going to hear of a whole proposal this evening to put 24/7, the 4th ambulance, not just peak ambulance service, the 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and the increase in 4 additional firefighters. We all know in the fire department, the OT, what's driving that. We're fortunate to have ARPA monies. What you'll hear tonight is a long-term proposal to decrease that overtime. That's the whole point to hire 4 firefighters. So down the road, we aren't spending as much money on OT. We'll get you the breakdown, but the majority of this is firefighting overtime. In prior years, if you look at 2023, the third quarter report, that was third quarter, we were 120% over budget. So at the end, we do, and, much like Andy did and much like prior years, you pull from where you're down to make up for the areas where it is over. Saying that, I believe our police department, I have to get their OT, but they have several grants which subsidizes much of their OT, whether it be GIVE, some of the other state, federal grants. So our police should be in line with prior years. Regarding staffing, I'm very pleased that, we are doing more with less. At the same time, we are looking at various departments differently. For instance, public utilities, you'll see a number of labor positions that are open. They've informed us they don't need laborers. They have enough laborers. So now they're looking for MEO lights. So you'll see on the civil service agenda, just really looking at our departments differently, not just looking in a box. We did just hire a new staff person. In the past, we had the recycling coordinator. We're looking at that department much differently in terms of sustainability. An outreach coordinator. That person just started a week and a half ago. But we'll get you the breakdowns, and I think the breakdowns will tell the story for each of those.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one last question.
Councilman Farah.
Do we have a total for Q1 expenditures?
If you were to sum these amounts, that would be.
This is this is a complete list of all the expenditures.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, let's move on. Thank
Okay.
you.
Water and sewer, I tried again, think of some information you might wanna see. And so the first slide is just to demonstrate the collections and how we did with that Q1 that went out. When you look at the end of Q1, we collected about just over 92% of our water and sewer. This is specifically the Troy customers. This is not the municipal customers. Obviously, we sell a significant amount to other municipalities throughout the area here, not in Rensselaer County only, but also to Half Moon and to Manans across the river. So this picture is just your city customers. So this is by sequence. You can see the total collections versus the billings. Not too bad. The next tab is probably closer to what you're familiar with. These are just the comparative and the versus budget. You can see that our water is slightly higher. I would have not sure off the top of my head what the water rate increase was, if at all, but I know consumption was pretty flat year over year when I looked at it. I also looked at just to get a sense of how we did on our relevies, because these numbers are great, but cash is important too. We got 79% of those water and sewer relevies collected in Q1. I thought that was worth mentioning. And so, going back to preparation of these reports, the municipal water, what we sell to Rensselaer, East Greenbush, and all those other municipalities, that's done either twice a year, or in some instances, it's done quarterly. And so it's the same kind of concept where the amount of water we sold in Q1 then needs to be measured, then needs to be billed and that will go out sometime in April or maybe even May. And so there's always that lag too with the municipal water. But you know, the number of customers municipally, to my knowledge, has not changed. And so we would hope that that would be relatively on point with budget. When we get Q2, we'll see some of that money rolling in, some of those municipal revenues. But, you know, again, seems to be on pace with prior year, seems to be on pace with budget. Just off the top of my head, I would expect water to increase during the warmer months. However, it's been pretty wet. So, and again, I'm not as familiar with your water usage. You know, if you're in suburbia, you might have people that water their lawns that aren't doing that or filling pools. And so we'll have to keep an eye and see how the city water trends and the municipal billings as well. It wouldn't totally shock me, given how wet it is, if consumption decreased, but we'll keep an eye on that and report back to you folks. Consumption is going to be your driver of revenue, and that's going to drive your sewer revenues too. So summarized data for the expenditures. Again, we'll get to you the same format. The water fund was a lot easier than the general fund. Quite frankly, it looked like the transfer to the debt service fund was made. We're gonna reconcile all those transfers to the debt service fund or all the applicable funds. And so, you know, put a little asterisk next to that transfer line item. That's something that we'll true up and work with Mike to make sure we get that nailed down correctly. But everything else, you know, operationally, obviously the numbers are up compared to 24, but they appear to be in line with the budget that the city council approved. So not a ton from my perspective to discuss, you know, other than, again, we got to reconcile that debt. It's on my list. Reconcile the debt and make sure the transfers are all tied out for you guys so that Mr. McNeff has a clean slate for himself here.
Any questions, folks, on the water fund?
Council President.
Councilman Vera.
So the 1.2 million that's shown for water revenue, you're saying that isn't a complete number because it only includes billings to Troy residents?
That's correct.
So that number might be a little bit higher?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so then the percentage of revenue, we're at 23%. That could be 25. It could
No, I only that's a good question, Councilman. To be clear, I only put the budgeted amount of your city council customers.
Okay, so then this is looking at just a subset, a large, but nonetheless a subset of revenue. Okay.
Absolutely correct. Whereas the sewer, I believe, is a little more inclusive of the total. That budgeted number for the water customers is just for your municipal customers.
And then these the sequencing here, you know, the bill that I receive would have just been in one of those sequences. Like those are bills that are run like the first week in January,
Yeah.
or then the second week, or
yeah,
that's
it's
what those
actually
are?
pretty interesting the way the city came up with it. If you looked at it and you counted them, I believe there's 13 sequences, and so there's a water billing going on every week.
Got
And
you.
then as soon as sequence 63 is done, that starts the next one. So every
The next quarter.
bingo.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So it's not, you know, the time period that sequence 51 covers is going to be different than the time period that sequence 58 covers. And it would just, you know, if you could snap your fingers and get meter readings all at the same time, that'd be beautiful. But that's just how the folks manage the readings, get the numbers input, and so on and so forth. So you got to look at all the sequences though, and that's kind of how we measure the revenue, even though those are on a bit of a different timetable.
Gotcha.
Yep. Good question.
Council President Steele?
Councilmember Casey.
Just a quick question, Administrator. What is the approximate ballpark revenue from those municipalities for water? Ballpark.
5 million, 6 million, right around there.
Oh, wow. So it is the same.
Oh, it's
Sorry,
big.
but
Yeah.
The same as what we were looking at. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's double check your budget, but it's up there. Yeah, I mean, Rensselaer and East Greenbush are huge customers. Brunswick, the town of Brunswick's a significant customer. Manan, so on and so forth. They're big. And, East Greenbush and, it goes on one bill, East Greenbush and Rensselaer, that's twice a year, right? So it would be, yeah. So, you get that money twice a year. So you'll get a big check, probably. You got a big check, I think, in early January for last year. You'll probably get a check in early July. And I'll try and get you those numbers too, just so you get a little flavor. We can incorporate that. Even though the money didn't come in, I'll have little footnotes for you as to what the amounts were. And so you can kind of get that data. But it'll be over $1 million.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. You can move on.
Okay. All right. So that kind of covered the sewer revenues too. So the next slide after the water fund expenditures is your sewer fund, and it's kind of the same story. These were my favorite ones to prepare because they were the two easiest. Similarly, we'll reconcile the debt service for you to make sure that's all good. Just be mindful with those transfers. They should, in theory, tie at the end of the year to your budget. We know what our debt service is going to be. It's a very predictable expense, and we should have budgeted whatever the respective funds share of that should have been budgeted and transferred, when needed to the debt service. It should be a very predictable line, and it's not going to be, a quarterly thing, because I think our big debt service is, I think, twice a year with bonds. We make an interest payment, and then interest payments twice a year, and then the bond principal, I forget, but it obviously wasn't Q1. Anyways, that'll be cleaned up for you. Similar, maybe slightly ahead of budget, on somewhat consistent with 2024, when you have a smaller fund, a smaller set of activity, be mindful that one person hopping on the city's health insurance plan could swing it from 94,000 to something significantly higher. Particularly if it was a family plan. I don't have the exact details, but the smaller the fund, the more subject you could be to fluctuations. With that said, the salaries and contractual expenses seem on track. I think I noted in footnote 3 of that increase year over year on employee benefits, 19 of that was health insurance. In fact, certainly pension expenses are not going down and things of that nature. So, but again, if you were to back out that 19, I think we'd be pretty close to on track for budget. So same thing, we'll get you the detail breakout. We'll, same format that you like. And if there's more detail you want, you just gotta tell the administration, we can accommodate that.
Any questions, council members? Guess we'll move on to the garbage fund then.
Okay, I can tell you personally, I almost had a heart attack when I looked at the garbage fund revenues until someone explained to me or reminded me how the garbage fund is built. And it's an annual fee that you guys send out in 2 installments. The first installment is due at the end of April. And then I believe it's 5 months after that. So to no surprise, no one decided to prepay their annual fee. And so if we're measuring Q1, which is the end of March, the bills haven't even gone out. And here we are. So I suspect when you get your Q2 report, it should be a pretty mechanical calculation. There was a slight trend, it seemed like, of picking up customers. So hopefully our budget is fairly accurate, but I would hope to see 50% of that build Obviously, by the end of Q2, we can also get you collections and see how much of that billing was collected during the months of May and June. Some anomalies here and there in some of these other things, if there was passion to find out about what happened with garbage violations, we can certainly dig down and get that. And beyond that, the items kind of seemed on track to me, or just simply not that material. But if there's any questions with the revenues, I think Q2 will be a more interesting conversation to look at than Q1 here, just due to the nature of our billing cycles.
Council President,
Councilmember McLaren.
what kind of gift or donation happened in 2024 that didn't happen in 2025?
We'll get the details and we'll pull the support for you.
Okay, thank you.
Someone gave us trash. I don't know, but we'll get that. Good question.
Councilmember Farrer.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I am kind of curious to see what happened with violations, because that's a little bit lower, but that might also be expected because of the winter months. Is that?
No,
No?
it's actually billing. Just some of the billing was delayed for some violations, some staff changes. One person actually moved to code, so another person picked it up, and it's just a delay in terms of getting the violations to the property owner. I did want to mention the bulk pickup, as you'll see, much higher than last year at this time. Huge kudos to the quality of life action crews who are out there, our litter patrol officers. They're just crushing it. But in terms of the refuse and garbage violations, it was just a delay in billing. They did get out, so we anticipate that for Q2. So that'll bounce up quite a bit. But our litter patrol, and just so folks are aware, what you do see a lot of times, we'll get phone calls from constituents who'll say, we saw the city of Troy clean up, say, a vacant building lot, or even someone's private property. If that particular property owner does not keep that property up to par, they have so many days after being cited. If they don't, we will abate it and we will fine and bill. So, just huge kudos to Joe Mazzarillo, his team. They are crushing it. And Seamus also, we were out there the other night, conducted Operation Sweep, which literally is code, community police, all of our forces hitting the streets, sanitation, etc. And we literally hit from 113th going north, wrote over 150 different violations from litter patrol alone. Doesn't even include code. So, we'll have a summary of that, but it literally is just clean air streets, house by house, block by block, and they're just doing a phenomenal job.
So Mayor, you're saying that when someone receives a citation, if enough time goes by, the city will go on and clean that.
Correct.
Are there any specific areas that you're targeting with that
No,
approach, or is
it's
that
different stuff,
citywide?
Citywide. Yep.
Okay.
And a lot of it also is see something, say something. If somebody calls in, or a council member calls in about a constituent who reported a nearby property that just is, full of trash, high weeds, high grass, etc. We send litter patrol and or code enforcement. And if the person doesn't clean up, and the goal here is, folks, yes, the revenue's fine, and we're happy to get that, but at the end of the day, we want folks to comply. That's what this is all about: teamwork and really getting property owners to be responsible, to be accountable, and to keep their properties neat, and we are getting much more compliance compared to prior years.
Mayor, can you just speak a bit about your thoughts on the garbage fee?
Yeah, it's not an easy fee, and my goal is to phase the fee out. I look at it as an additional tax. We all know, and for those who don't know, it started out as a temporary fee. It was at $160 some odd dollars, and that was back in 2018. It turned from a temporary fee to what it is today, a permanent fee, which continues to rise, except for this year. We were very, very fortunate. We thought creatively, and we were able to keep it at the 260 that's at. So the goal is to phase it out. We're talking on talking about different strategies and other ideas to try to phase that out, because we all know that the fee turned into basically a hidden tax. Folks were getting their garbage picked up under their property tax at the time, unfortunately. It wasn't thought about creatively, and it was essentially implemented to circumvent the 5 votes needed for a tax increase to override the tax cap. So here we are today. It is a $3 million item, 3.2. It continues to rise because obviously our salaries, contractual obligations, and we're competing with the private sector. And unfortunately, the private sector is incentivizing folks to join the private firms to get private garbage collection. We have seen a tiny bit of an uptick because we are doing a phenomenal job. Like I said, Joe, Shame, and the crews are, constantly ensuring that our service meets or even crushes the private sector, but at the same time, they're providing the service for a cheaper cost. So we'll continue in-house. Obviously, the budget will include that item, and we're trying to think out the box.
So you anticipate the fee to stay within the 2026 budget, and what's your
Well,
timeframe?
the goal is, like I said, to
What's your
try to
timeframe?
phase this out.
What's your-
I'm trying to talk. The goal is to try to phase it out. This year, we were fortunate to keep it at that level, so we'll see. And obviously, like I said, we're striving in-house to figure out how we can phase that fee out.
What would you anticipate to be that phasing out? How many years do you see it? in the
We'll
future?
see when we propose our budget, Council President.
You'll have an answer for us then?
Well, it'll be in the budget,
Right, but
right?
you're talking about phasing it out, so.
I said that's a goal, and that is something we're working very hard to do. In the budget, we'll be proposing next year's plan and a long-term solid waste plan.
I do note anecdotally that folks are coming back to the city because, as we had anticipated before, there were some introductory offers that the private haulers were offering. And now once they, get them in, they now are raising the rates. And so folks are coming back. I've seen that happen. So I'm hopeful that trend continues. Any other questions?
Council President Seal.
Councilmember Casey.
I guess it's basically to the mayor, the administration, well, I guess BAs too. I mean, it's been a long road for us financially with all these reports. I'm not going to rehash everything we went through with what we were left and basically the old program and how the accounting was done. And it's been a really, really long road. But I do believe with this, we are completely up to date with all our filings, correct? Hallelujah. It's okay, we'll take it.
Was there any questions on the garbage expenditures? Obviously, I kind of talked to the point of the transfers to debt service. the payroll is down, which is nice, but it's just that 25% of budget, which you kind of hope for and expect. And everything else appears to be tracking on par. I would note, and this is part of the 25 budget, that the general fund does make an appropriation to the garbage fund, in essence, to balance the books. Last year, it didn't need it. There was enough revenue to cover the expenses. I don't foresee that happening this year. I would expect that in order for the garbage fund to balance the books, it's going to need that either a portion or all of the transfer that's budgeted for from the general fund. That's an entry, again, just to be full transparent. It's not posted, it's not reflected in here. But it's probably going to need to be posted. So that will be a pickup in the garbage fund and a detraction or a reduction in the general fund, in line with the budget.
Councilman Vera?
Is that the 900,000 at the very end of revenues?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What that is. Yep.
Any
Yeah.
other questions, folks? Okay,
Okay. Well, with any luck, you'll start seeing less of me. And it's nothing personal. I like all of you. But we got a good comptroller here. I didn't work on the Albany County account when Mike was there, but I know my peers have. And so it's pretty exciting for the city to have him. And so the goal all along was to provide temporary help. We thought there was a light at the end of the tunnel. It was a freight train. Now we have our light. And like I said, Carol Ann is going to be rolling off at the end of the month. My goal would be to support Mike in whatever capacity that the city thinks. Logically, I kind of mentioned some homework. In this report, there's some debt service entries I want to make sure I nail down. I want to make sure Mike knows those monthly or quarterly entries that need to get done. I'd be happy to take a stab at the Q2 report. So that's timely too, just to take the burden off Mike. It's now that I know how all the pieces come together, it should be pretty straightforward to assemble. Again, my own personal availability, I probably can't get that report to you guys until sometime in early August. But I think that would be pretty in line with when you got things in the past. Obviously, the sooner, the better. So I just listed some of those continuing efforts. Again, the goal, phase out BST. I would guess by the time Q3 rolls around, other than maybe helping Mike with a few questions, I won't be needed. And maybe Mike needs a little help with the year-end closeout, but I know Mike's done AFRs and things like that, so you really wouldn't need much more time. So hopefully more of an advisory role than actually doing all the work. I mentioned the debt roll forward. That's the issue with those transfers. I gotta get that done. And in fact, I might as well just do it for the year so that we have it and we can make sure those entries in the later quarters are posted correctly. There was a couple classification issues I noticed when I was doing the general fund parking revenues. I want to make sure we get those in the right buckets. There's some ARPA journal entries. So these are just kind of those homework items that we got to do over the next, couple months. Flag those budgetary items too. If there's any budget items that are at or over budget, we should make those transfers. And again, the last point I had here is that Q2 report. We'll when we redo Q1 for you, we'll make sure you like that. If there's any extra data or anything you're looking for, we can incorporate that. But then again, targeting that Q2 report for August 25. And by then, everything should be in a reasonable order for Mike to take off, take over without any, bogeys that he's got to worry about.
so Brendan, you see yourself here to August to accomplish these items? Is that
I've been
what you're-
spending, to be honest, very, very little time here.
okay?
Uh,
Or your staff?
No,
Oh.
we're pulling out. at the
Okay,
end of the month.
so how will these items be accomplished?
We will map those entries that we've been doing and the work we've been doing and transfer that over to Mike.
Okay,
And if Mike, for whatever reason, needs help, they'll have to go through the channels. And you know, if you needed somebody for something, we're right here. You know, my office is in Latham. It's a 15-minute drive. It's very easy to come over. It's the same kind of relationship we had at Albany County. I know Mike was not, my fellow partner, John, he's, you know, happy to reach out. So we're kind of like that, right in the background if you need us. I can assure you, I have plenty of other things to do. Irene? Okay, we got plenty to do. We're happy to help out when we can. It's actually a relief for me to have somebody here.
can you share with us how much the city has paid you thus far?
I'll get that for you.
Okay,
I have access to our billing records.
okay, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure
Um,
they have that too.
And on the subject of appreciation, I just want to express my personal appreciation. I
Yeah.
think I speak on behalf of the council, that this is a long time coming, but very much appreciated. And,
We're happy to help. Like I said, I've got a sense of relief with having Mike here. I think that's going to be a good fit. You know, we tried a couple things and came up short, and
Great,
you're going to be better off with a full-time qualified
Absolutely.
person
Yep.
than me sitting at these meetings, because you're going to have someone that knows these details off the top of their head versus someone who's thinking about 20 clients at once. So it'll be better for the city, but
definitely.
we'll get you. The other thing too that I neglected to mention is I'm helping out wrap up the 24 audit. So
Good.
I've been supplying things to Bonadio as part of their process. So you know, we can keep Mike posted on those things, but a lot of that work was all work that I did or my team did. And so it might be a little difficult for Mike just to pick that up out of the blue, because again, it was all BSD work.
Very good. Any last comments? Well, then, thank you so much. We really
you.
appreciate
My
it.
pleasure to all of you. And again, we'll get that data for you in the right way that, you know, you want it. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You didn't, but explain. What's At this point of the evening, we have the public forum for agenda items only. So if you wish to comment on anything that's on the agenda, please come forward. Have about 3 minutes or so to make your point. And we look forward to hearing from you. There are agendas in the back of the room if you're unclear as to what item is actually on the agenda or not. There will be a public forum at the end of the evening for any item, not necessarily an agenda item. So if you wish to speak on anything that we'll be acting upon tonight, please come forward.
Yes. ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. I am Jerry Ford, here company with my wife and Aaron Collington. And we're here tonight to just be present as the city recognizes Juneteenth. We just want to say thank you for your support and everything that's been going on for the last couple of years as we put these celebrations together to recognize, the journey of the African Americans in our country. And we want to officially invite all of you to come out. Please come out to the celebration. We would love to see your faces there. This will take place on Thursday. We were going to be at Geneva Pumpy Park on 7th Avenue, but due to the rain, we've made an adjustment and we'll be at school too. So the celebration for Juneteenth this year will be at school too, and we're starting at 12 o'clock. And consider this your own personal invitation, and we would love to see your faces there.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Natoya Drakes. I work in the local Social Security office, and I'm here to address one of the resolutions there. I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity to express my thoughts today. I must preface as a federal worker that my views and perspectives today are that of my own and not of any agency I represent. I'm here today to urge you, our elected representatives, to pass the resolution supported the continued operation of local Social Security offices and to stand in solidarity with the workers who keep these vital services running. Social Security is not just a line in an item budget, it's a lifeline. For seniors, for people with disabilities, for families who lost a loved one, these benefits, they mean stability, they mean dignity, and the chance to live with some security in the world that too often feels uncertain. Right now, these lifelines are under attack. Across the country, we're seeing office closures, staffing cuts, and increased pressure on already overwhelmed Social Security employees. And this is not an accident, I think. It's a part of a troubling pattern that this administration's approach to slowly dismantle public trust and reduce accessibility to the very systems that protected generations for almost 90 years. These workers at these offices, they're enduring more than just budget strain. They're enduring burnout, uncertainty, and quite frankly, disrespect. They're showing up every day, serving the most vulnerable members of our community, even as the federal support behind them erodes. How can we not, the city, the country even, how can we not support these people? Passing this resolution sends a clear message that Troy stands for its people, Troy listens to its people, Troy stands for its workers, and Troy will not sit silently while attempts are made to gut Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. This is not just about policy, this is about values. It's about whether we will stand up for workers that are doing the ground level work to keep these systems going. It's about whether we will show our seniors and our struggling neighbors that we have their backs too. By passing this resolution, you, the Troy City Council, have a chance to be on the right side of history, to tell your constituents that you see them, that you hear them, and that you are willing to fight for them. We ask that you support this resolution, not just as a statement, but as a stand for justice, dignity, and the belief that no one in our city should be left behind. Again, I thank you for this opportunity to share this message with you, and I could only hope that we see the urgency in fighting for the people with no exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jeff Ward. I'm the Troy Fire UFA president for those who haven't met me yet. I have some big shoes to fill, obviously filling in for Eric. There is a lot of proposals tonight for bond resolutions for the fire department. And I just want to let everybody know that we have many safety issues in the fire department, and this addresses many of them. We strongly encourage that all of you move forward with the resolutions and pass them tonight as written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Wisher, the former UFA president. I think, as Jeff said, these are long-standing safety issues that these bonds address, and the staffing of Medic 3 to provide the proper service to our citizens as well as the safety of our firefighters. I think they're all important, they're long-standing, and I think they all need to be addressed tonight to ensure public safety for both the public and the firefighters. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to address the council on any agenda item?
Technologically challenged here. My name is Jess. I am a Social Security employee. I am a local steward for AFG Local 3343, and I'm a delegate of the Troy Area Labor Council. I represent none of those tonight, but I'm here as a constituent to ask you to vote yes and adopt our resolution in support of protecting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The resolution to us is not about politics. It's about people. And since 1935, Social Security has been the strongest and sometimes the only safeguard against poverty. Today, almost 75 million people receive Social Security benefits, but attacks on federal staffing, cutting corners, breaking contracts, this is the behavior that will cut our neighbors off from the help that they desperately need. In our own community, 1 in every 5 staff members in local Social Security offices is a veteran. These aren't faceless bureaucrats. They are trained public servants, people of deep integrity who answer phone calls, file disability claims, and help our elders navigate retirement with dignity. We're witnessing a moral crisis. Disability applicants waiting years to receive decisions, widows waiting months just to get an appointment to apply for survivor benefits for their children. As public servants, as neighbors, we are called to help and protect the least among us, not just to love our neighbors, but to care for the orphan, for the widow, for the family provider who was too sick or too hurt to provide for their family. This resolution is a statement of that love we have for each other. Voting yes on the resolution is a statement of your alliance with AFGE to support keeping the public services open and available to your constituents. This is a public stand for decency, for mercy, and for justice. So I urge you to stand with your community, stand with the workers who serve it. Vote yes and stand with the elderly, the sick, the disabled, and the grieving. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move along with our agenda. Third. Ordinance 27. Ordinance amending the City of Troy zoning map to change the zoning district of property known as 74 New Turnpike Road tax map parcel number 70.74-1-1 from single-family neighborhood to development intensity to planned development district. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan with a second by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion on the ordinance. Councilmember Casey,
No, I didn't.
did you want to speak?
No.
No,
Sorry.
okay. Anyone want to say anything? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7 ayes, 0 noes. Ordinance 28, ordinance amending the 2025 budget by appropriating funding from the general fund unassigned fund balance to the general fund operating budget. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion on the ordinance.
Council President.
Councilman Vera.
Just a few questions for Gabrielle, if she's available. Hi.
Hi.
Unassigned fund balance. What is the dollar amount that we currently have in that fund?
So there is a substantial amount of money. There's sufficient amount for this.
Well, just a
It's
ballpark,
not something that in the
Like
budget and
10 million? Is that how much money is in that account?
I can get back to you on that.
Okay. But that type of substantial is what you're,
And, Andy knows this and other municipalities, we don't like to yell out how much is, and it's very, very healthy and we will contact you.
okay,
Will that work?
Would you share that with the entire council, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
okay. So this is a very small portion of what we have.
Yes.
Okay. Then I see we're transferring these funds. I think the first item is for the contract that we have in our agenda this evening.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And that's going to be an ongoing, like that's an annual expense that will incur.
Yes.
Okay. So annually, that'll be 87,500 or thereabouts.
I would have to
The
refer
contract-
to the
the contract
contract
says,
itself for the,
The maximum dollar amount of the contract I've got is 75,000.
so this amount here, it was like a prorated amount
Okay.
through the end of 2025, what we would need.
And then obviously the next transfer for the comptroller, we just had the conversation with BST. This is to pay for services that have already been rendered or will be in the next 2-3
A
months.
combination of both.
Okay. And then the overtime transfer, $372,000. Is that for overages and overtime, or is that we're anticipating running out of ARPA funding for
That's
peak ambulance?
correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that has the potential to become an annual cost as well then? If nothing were to happen with overtime,
Well, bringing it to the 24 hours as well, which is the
Okay.
reason for the increase. And in number 4, hopefully with the additional staffing or, firefighters, we will not need as much overtime to run the peak ambulance. It will be part of operation.
okay, and then the remaining transfers all relate to the hiring of 4 additional firefighters, but that's prorated for the rest of the year, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Do
Yeah.
you know what the annual cost of those would be? Or can I just double it? Is that close enough?
Yeah, you could double it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. Little less than double.
My next questions would be for the mayor then. What effect do you think this is going to have on the 2026 budget?
Yeah, Councilmember Vera, which item specifically?
Well, all of the transfers that will end up becoming annual costs. So the transfer for the risk management consultant, fire department overtime, and then the all of these salary related line items. BST, it sounds like won't be in the
That won't
picture
be
next
there.
year. So
Yep. Like I said earlier, the hiring of the firefighters are intended to cut the cost of the overtime. I really want to applaud Chief Salucci, Jeff Ward, the UFA, Deputy Mayor Seamus Donnelly, Gabrielle, for really thinking out of the box. This certainly was a product of looking long-term investment, and obviously, not just addressing peak ambulance, but 24/7, 365 days a year for 4 ambulances. In terms of the budget hit, you will see that obviously once we propose the budget, but ultimately it won't be the exact cost of what's in this budget, because the whole idea hiring the 4 firefighters is to cut into that OT. Regarding risk management, another long-term investment. Seamus, we'll talk about that when we get to that item. That's all about training, safety, really across the board, something that has never been done here in the city. Really implementing more risk management training, and really enhancing the safety of our workers and ultimately, obviously, the safety for residents. So we look at that as an investment, and one that will also trim insurance, which Seamus will talk about, because risk management has an impact on our insurance policy. So that does domino together. So, these are looked at as not just, they're not one shots. We know that they're going to have to be accounted for 2026 budget. But the good news, this right here will get us through 2025. When we look at the 2026 budget, we'll be able to look at the total budget and not just certain items, which we're doing here. We'll be able to use those for firefighters, obviously. The reason being hiring those is to cut the OT. You'll also see the uniforms. We won't be buying those same uniforms next year, so that will not be a recurring expense next year. That will be this year. So, some of these will be one shots for this year, one shot hits, I want to say, in terms of the expenditures, and then others obviously accounting for in 2026.
okay. How do you think this will affect the available funds for union negotiations? The UFA and CSEA are both outstanding.
Mhm.
Do you anticipate any negative effects with that?
Not at all.
Okay.
We feel confident, CSEA, we are hopeful. There is a tentative, at least very preliminary agreement. They're going to their members. Firefighters, we know with the proposal that you're seeing tonight, this obviously will have a positive impact on our negotiations, but in terms of dollars, will not have a negative impact on what we are able to agree or not to agree to.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, when can I expect the numbers for the unassigned fund balance? You'll email me those in the
Yeah,
next day?
actually, I prefer we can contact each of you. How about that? I prefer.
Perfect. In the
verbally.
next day or two, or?
I would say,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Brosnan?
I have a couple of questions about the addition of 4 firefighters. That for a minimum manning, is that for total firefighters, or is that 4 firefighters plus the replacements for all the people retiring and leaving?
That's 4 new hires, but it will not impact the minimum manning. That's separate, something that we would have to negotiate.
All right, is this at the recommendation of the 90-day task force?
It came out of the 90-day task force. Do know we'll be coming out with a report in the near future. The task force, we're finalizing some pieces, and we hope to have that within, I would say, the next month or so, the final recommendations. But I will say, these were pieces of conversations of the 90-day task force. And I really, once again, want to give a shout out to just Seamus, Jeff Ward, Rich Salucci, Rick, Gabrielle, the UFA, really thinking out of the box. And even Eric Wisher, he got the conversations rolling way back when, sounding the horn. And this is really out of the box thinking. Do also know that the ambulance revenue, that the council bipartisan restructured and increased in terms of our fees, are also accounted. And that's obviously something that we'll also anticipate for 2026. But part of the monies here are also due to the ambulance revenues going up. And next year we'll have a whole year of that too. So.
Okay, thank you. To add the 4 new firefighters, is that something that you can do with their current CBA, or is there gonna have to be a memorandum of agreement?
This is through December of 2025. So what you're seeing for next year, we do anticipate some type of MOA. I don't know if that involves the 4, but definitely on some other items that we've talked about for 2026.
All right, thank you.
Council President Seal.
Councilmember Casey.
You know, there was a time when the way we did things in the fire department, as far as the ambulance, worked really well. I know it firsthand. I was there. The way my career worked out, I spent most of my career on an ambulance. But though that time has passed with the population explosion, the call explosion, and the waiting times at the hospitals, I'm not sure what we would do without Medic 3. I don't even think it's possible. We would be in very bad shape. And this is just great that we're getting this done, because I don't even think it was a choice at this time. So it's just great that everybody got together, the task force talking about revenue and the administration making this happen. It's a good day that we're going to have this full-time 24 hours a day. Thank you.
And if I could just add, the ambulance crisis, we know this is not just, something that's hitting Troy. It's hitting the towns in Rensselaer County, the capital region. We see over in Cohoes, they're actually contracting with a private ambulance company. Here in Troy, we're ahead of the curve. And what we're displaying tonight and what we've displayed 2D is a real model. And it really shows that we are ahead of the curve. And that's because of Gary Favreau, thinking 30 years ago with the city-run ambulance. And now fast forward, we understand, that 30-year-old model has changed. The hospital waiting times, as Councilmember Casey mentioned, the whole health insurance and just health care has changed dramatically. So it's dominoing into our services of ambulance service. So I really credit all the folks for really thinking creatively on this one. It really was a team effort.
I have to say that as we have a meeting tonight with so many fire-related issues, it would have been to the council's benefit to have had that report in our hands so that we had some context. And so I regret that it's not going to be ready in time for us to consider as we consider these. But
Well, do
We'll
know.
see it when we see it.
Well, on that front, it's not ready yet in terms of, not just the report written, but we are still looking at other creative avenues, et cetera. So the conversation will never just die. So that report, it's going to be healthy and it's going to give us maybe some out of the box ideas. It's going to rehash some ideas we already talked about, but the conversation has to and must continue. And it won't just end with that report, but saying that you are seeing one very big item that came out of that task force. And so that's one of many, but the report just isn't ready. The deadline just closed last week. So you got to give a little time
Well,
here. And more importantly, what you're seeing on the agenda really is unrelated to the task force. The firehouse, we have put that back on track. The apparatuses, it's pretty direct what we're asking the council outside of the Medic 3, which, we'll talk about fully when we get to that resolution.
Again, I think it would have been very helpful for the council to have that information. Any other comments? Councilman Brosnan?
Mayor, do you know when the new medic will be up and going for the 24 hours? Is it gonna be like
Oh,
tomorrow?
yeah, soon. I would say as soon as I get the legislation and sign it, we'll get rolling.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Council President,
Councilmember McLaren.
I am going to recuse myself from the vote on this.
Okay. 28. Okay, so that's 6 ayes and 1 recusal. Ordinance 29, ordinance authorizing the deduction of monies from the general fund unassigned fund balance, authorizing the creation of a capital project and amending the general fund and capital projects fund to appropriate funding to said project. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan. Second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion on the ordinance.
Council President.
Councilmember Vera.
Just a general question for the administration. These funds are going, are these funds going to be combined with some of the later bond resolutions to purchase some equipment, or is this a completely separate project?
These are separate from the bond resolution.
So this is for a vehicle that's in addition to the vehicles that are part of the bond resolutions?
Yes, these are
Okay.
for, yeah,
Again, transferring funds from the unassigned fund balance, but these are one-time deals. This is not something that's going to come back annually.
correct.
Okay.
Council member, if I may, so I know some of the way the bond resolutions are listed, but those are all for apparatuses, ambulance, not vehicles, just to be clear, your traditional.
Oh, these are like SUVs and pickup trucks?
That's where other.
Gotcha.
Do we have any more detail on that other than just generally pickup trucks?
Gabrielle
We-
can follow up with, I know that the deputy mayor and general services commissioner are doing a full-fledged fleet assessment. So, and various general services and other departments, as you know, in 2023, normally in the capital plan, we've budgeted for the upcoming year. We didn't do that in 23, didn't do that in 24. So we are behind.
So how did we arrive at this number,
Sure.
I guess,
Yep.
is where we're at with this.
This is honestly a small ask. In my mind, to my knowledge, we need more than this, but this is going to give us a head start for 2025.
Do you have a rough idea of how many vehicles we're talking about?
Now, so if this is passed, I mean, we have 200,000, so we would have to do an assessment through City Hall and garages to see what we can purchase with that amount of money.
Okay. So you're just asking for the money and you'll buy whatever you can.
Correct.
Anyone have any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7 ayes, 0 noes. Ordinance 30. Ordinance authorizing the creation of a capital project in the Capital Projects Fund, appropriating funding from the unappropriated fund balance of the Water Fund for the purpose of said capital project, and amending the Water Fund and Capital Projects Fund budgets for said capital project. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who that was. Councilmember McLaren. Discussion on ordinance 30.
Council President,
Councilman Farrow.
what is this funding going to be used for?
Andrew Golden's going to come up to talk about this item, and I did just want to let the council know the reason as you may or may not know, in prior years, the state comptroller has weighed in on our audits, et cetera, preliminary audit. And one of the major recommendations was to look in the budget rather than bond for vehicles. Hence the reasoning to not, as much as we can, not bond for your everyday pickup trucks, SUVs, et cetera. So you'll see for larger apparatuses, ambulances, that, does have good PPU and we will bond. But in terms of your everyday vehicles, the comptroller strongly recommends looking within the budget. So once again, we'll be getting back on track with the capital plan to get it revolving. Thank you.
So this is for the a purchase of vehicles for DPU for 2025. This funding here, vehicles and equipment, 2 backhoes, a couple utility trucks, 1 for water, 1 for sewer. We have 2 GIS technicians now, and they don't have a vehicle. They've been borrowing one of the other vehicles from the water plant operators. So they're going to have their own vehicle to do like lead service line inspections and also go out and like take points and do mapping and stuff like that. We've also hired a project supervisor and a vehicle for her as well.
Excellent. So very similar to the last resolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Andrew. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 30 is adopted 7-0. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution appointing a Commissioner of Deeds for the City of Troy, Council President Steele. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted 7-0. Resolution 58, resolution of the City of Troy recognizing Juneteenth. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Wow, lots of seconds.
Think you know where that's going.
Council, can I just decide who seconded first? We're going to give it to Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on 58.
I would like to co-sponsor this resolution.
Okay,
I would as well.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that's
we all.
the sentiment of the entire council. So if you would add everyone to that.
Thank you.
Please. I think it's, maybe not. I guess I shouldn't speak for the council. Raise your hand if you'd like to co-sponsor this resolution. Okay, looks like a We're unified in our recognition of Juneteenth. Excellent. Any questions, comments?
Council President,
Councilmember McLaren?
I'm very proud to be a co-sponsor on this. Also very proud that the celebration, despite, I'm sorry about the rain, but I'm glad that it will be held at school too, which is where I work. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Any others? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 58 adopted unanimously. Resolution 59, resolution of the Troy City Council supporting federal funding for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security services. Councilmember Vera, Councilmember Spain. Do I have a motion? I will move this forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Vera. Discussion on resolution 59.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
I did reach out to you earlier this week. I had spoken to Chris Delaney, the president. Let me get this right. AFG Local 3343, who had spoken to us to send some legislation. And I want to apologize. I did reach out to you about this, but there was a lot going on with it, the agenda, and I didn't follow up. I told him that he had some issues with some of the language of what he had sent us, and he was great. Just a little while later, he sent me back some legislation that, I was definitely happy to support, and is Resolution 78. So I was hoping at this time we could continue the bipartisanship. And again, I'm sorry I didn't reach out to you again to follow up on it. I'd like to see if we can get this withdrawn or table it in favor of Resolution 78, which was written by the President of the Union. And it was about he was excited about it, that it would get support. And it was about, the Social Security staffing in office in Troy. So I guess this.
Council President.
Councilwoman McLaren.
Before we discuss that, I would just like to say that the comments we heard from the ladies who actually do this work every single day reflected this resolution, that our constituents and people like them throughout our whole country are the ones being directly affected and impacted by the cuts that are being made. And I don't think this was a partisan resolution. I think it's factual. What's described in this resolution is exactly what is happening. And I, for one, don't think it should be changed. I realize that Mr. Delaney sent this to you, but I know there was also a follow-up saying that he doesn't believe this was a partisan resolution. He was willing to change it because it's important enough that it get passed.
Right.
But I think this version represents the people of Troy who are affected. It represents our elderly residents. It represents our disabled residents, our displaced residents, our families that are hurt by, whatever life throws their way. These are the people who are getting hurt by these policies that are cutting the benefits and closing the offices. So I, for one, think that we should leave this resolution as it stands.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
I just want to say we talked about it. The conversation I had with him is that, of course, Social Security offices are for the most likely, it's elderly people. They're not into electronics. They're not into the phone. They want to go and speak to somebody. That's what they do. My girlfriend's parents are in their 80s. They drive to everywhere to speak to someone, and that's what we need. I personally pay more for my car insurance because I want to go speak to somebody. I don't want to do it over the phone. I don't want to do it on computer. I think it's very, very important Now, on a broader issue, somebody better cut something or our kids aren't going to have anything. I think people better start thinking about that. It's not going to be too long where we're not going to be able to take care of anybody. And but that being said, I just have a couple of things. I've tried to say since I started as council, let's keep it about Troy. Let's keep it local. Let's not try to, let me just point out that the other day in the news, Schenectady County Legislature debated all night on the HALT Act on the state level. And they're going to agree to talk. So they're all their business the whole night was halt, which has got to do with state prisons. Okay. I'm not trying to get my name in the Times Union. I'm not trying to get my name in the Washington Post or the New York Times. I'm just trying to do what's right for Troy. I don't want to talk about national issues and what's going on nationally. I think we're if we want to do that, we're going to spend all our time talking about national issues. We have a full slate of Troy issues here that we're going to be working on and looking into and reading about and doing our due diligence about. But now, let's see. Resolution 59, support of HR 1876. So I got to read all that. 1877, House Bill. Full text not available, just a summary. What am I voting on? HR 1700, summary, in progress. There may be competing bills. There's statements made by members of the administration, the members of the House, seeing that it's just been introduced. It's going to be debated. The Senate. I have to do all that homework for this resolution. You know what I want to do? I want to make sure that the union knows we want that Social Security office open and all around this country and properly staffed. Are we going to sit here every night? I mean, there's plenty of people that have showed up at our meetings that want to talk about national issues. Oh my God, my voice is going to be heard. I want to talk about national issues. So that's what we're going to do. Irene, would you like to introduce 4 or 5 things every meeting to talk about national issues? I bet you would, because you seem up on those kind of things. I just think that it's not in our purview to keep trying to, I went to a seminar, or I saw this on the national state level. Let's talk about this. I'm concerned about this. Let's talk. We have enough Troy issues right here that we're supposed to make sure we make the right decision on and do our homework on. But now we're going to start talking about our own personal little issues. Resolution 78 addresses exactly what this union wanted and that the majority, and hopefully I'm sure everybody fully supports. So I'm going to be voting no. I think maybe we'll even table it. I'm not sure. 59.
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
I would just like to point out that Juneteenth that we all just voted on is a national initiative, and we were happy to proclaim Juneteenth in the city of Troy,
Right.
modeling it after a national day of recognition, a federal holiday now.
Council
Thank
President.
you. Councilmember Soriento.
So I have a statement here that I would like to address to Council President and my fellow council members. With all due respect, I find this resolution to be a strategic distraction to keep our focus away from actually doing business on the local level and of topics that have a direct impact on our small city businesses, taxpayers, and the residents of Troy. There is absolutely no backup to support this resolution, which convinces me to believe that the information in this resolution may be based on certain people's opinions and assumptions. Where is the supporting documentation on these drastic cuts to American citizens that are being claimed? And why is this resolution necessary for us to vote on it, let alone vote on it now? Is it because it's an election year for certain candidates? We were elected to make sure that the Troy taxpayers receive the best and most services for the taxes they pay. As my chiropractor would say, regarding taking Advil liquid gel versus taking my Advil, more bang for your buck. As a city council member of almost 4 years, I can blatantly tell you that I have no teeth in what happens at the federal level. Neither do you, I imagine. but we are part of a crucial role at what happens in our city and be a part of the foundation of building our city to a better future, correct? For our family, our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and friends, I am looking out for the future of you all in our city. We should all be looking out for the future of the residents in our city. The votes I made before tonight and for the rest of my term are based on what I believe would positively impact our residents, taxpayers, local businesses, and the future of our city. I am hopeful that my colleagues have the same vision as well, since we are here to represent in its entirety to Troy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
As the only member of the minority who is actually running for the reelection, I'm not sure if that was directed at me. However, I would just like to make the statement that our country was begun by cities. It was built city by city into states, into what we know now. So what happens at a national level absolutely affects our cities somehow. And I think it's short-sighted to think that just focusing on Troy is in the best interests of the citizens of Troy. I think we have to look at national trends. I think it's important for us to look at what is happening in our country and make sure that what's happening in Troy is what's best for the citizens of Troy. I don't think leaving this language in this resolution takes away from its validity at all. I think it adds to it because I think it strengthens it. And if the House and the Senate are working on a bill that says exactly this, I don't know how we can go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
Well, I have to say, there is talk of Medicaid cuts and Medicare cuts. One side says you're going to be hurting these people. The other side said these people say shouldn't be on it. There's all competing. We haven't heard the Senate. We haven't heard the executive branch. So what exactly are we condemning here? We don't even know what we're condemning. Again, I will point out that somebody better start thinking that we're spending 25% of our budget on debt service, and it's more than the entire military. We're spending more than we did when we shut it down the country and funded it during COVID, okay? The crash is coming, and you're going to destroy your children's future. And guess what? We're not going to be helping anybody. And you know why nobody wants to cut it? Republicans and Democrats, because we the people, and you saw this over the last couple of months, don't want anything cut. We're outraged when anything's cut. At least somebody's trying to do something, or we have no future. Again, getting back, we don't know exactly what these Medicare cuts are. How can we say, as a council, we support any of this or against any of it when we don't know the final product? We have no idea. We're blanket saying, I'm against all these cuts. What if they're good cuts? We don't know that. And that's going to take a little more time, and it would take a lot of our time. Write your congressman.
So,
Thank you.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember McLaren.
I would just like to read one of the statements in Resolution 78, which says that this body opposes cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security benefits. Same exact wording as Resolution 59.
Right, exactly.
So if we're only talking about Troy and we're not talking about national, then why are we pounding the table talking about making national, about making cuts somewhere that somebody's got to make cuts? The point of this resolution is to let people above us know that we oppose cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and that we oppose closing local offices so that our residents, our constituents, our families still have access to those offices and to those services and benefits. It's that simple. Most of the wording is the same.
Yep. Exactly. Thank you. We'll move this.
Council President,
Councilmember Brosnan.
if you read Resolution 59 and Resolution 78, they're almost word for word. There's only 3 lines that were cut.
Right.
The 3 lines were under the blanket, I apologize. It was under the blanket statement of these cuts were going straight into the pockets of billionaires. That's the only lines being cut. We're still supporting, not cutting anything from Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. It's just that one snippet of line that got
Okay,
cut.
thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Council President,
Councilman Vera.
just very briefly.
45 minutes.
I-
You can
I-
have your time.
He wasn't even done.
Oh, I apologize.
I thought you were done.
That's why I was still talking.
I said, are you done? I thought you said yes.
No.
Please continue.
My apologies.
By all means.
The final point I was saying is we're arguing for 20 minutes now for 3 lines that don't change the overall sentiment of what we're voting on. It's just, this is a ridiculous thing to fight about.
Exactly.
Either way.
Council
Councilman
President,
Vera.
Again, apologies. I
No, you're-
didn't realize.
No, I didn't understand either.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that, while I can understand, where Councilman Casey is coming from, that, this body is a local governing body, legislative body, and, we don't have as much of an impact at the federal or state level as we'd like to. Certainly, things that happen at the federal and state level have an impact to our residents here. This is not the first urging resolution that this body has passed, nor do I think it will be the last. While I think the language that was included in Councilmember Spain McLaren's version of the bill is sufficient, I have no objection to supporting Mr. Casey's resolution. But I do think that urging resolutions serve a purpose. And I believe everyone shares that opinion, seeing as you introduced your own version. Thank you.
Okay, can we move on with the vote? I know I myself stand behind the union that requested this and the individuals who spoke this evening. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Hey,
Resolution is defeated. Moving on to resolution 60. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Boys and Girls Club of the Capital Area, Inc. for the purpose of providing trained personnel to administer and operate the South Troy Pool Facility through September 1st, 2025. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
motion.
Member Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. Resolution 61. Resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilman Farrow. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 61 is adopted 7-0. Resolution 62, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of 350,000 serial bonds to finance the purchase of an ambulance. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion.
Council President,
Councilman Vera.
is there somebody from the administration that can speak to this, specifically the, well, I guess a number of questions, but some relating to the financing itself and others relating to the purpose. So-
Yeah.
For,
Good evening.
hi, for starters, this 350,000, this was part of the capital plan that was published with the 2025 budget, correct? This was like, I think specifically a line item that was in there.
Correct. Like, in the back where that capital plan is, that's a bit of a roadmap, but this is what actually ultimately end up funding it once we get those bond proceeds and can appropriate it for that ambulance.
Okay, and then this is for the ambulance. Is that also correct?
350, yeah.
Okay. And the current piece of equipment that this is replacing is how old? I think I have that in front of me somewhere.
So it's
10 years old?
It's a 2015. So what would this would be new Medic 3. Earlier this year, we had an ambulance that a motor blew on. It wasn't worth repairing. So we're technically down an ambulance. That ambulance was Medic 3, which was a spare ambulance and moved into the Medic 3 role. Currently, right now, Medic 3 is Medic 14, which is a 10-year-old ambulance. So our intent would be replace Medic 3 with a new ambulance, and then that Medic 14 would move back into the reserve role.
So this is critical to establishing that
Yes.
the level of service that we were discussing earlier.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. The financial question is, will we be financing this over 10 years, and roughly what is the impact to the budget that would have?
I can get you those exact numbers, and even if kind of all of the bonding and how that necessarily will impact that debt service fund. I do think a couple of things are worth noting that since 2024, and I think even back into 2023, gearing up for the 2024 budget, not a lot, if any, equipment has been bonded for, except for, I want to say, a fire apparatus that we got last year, a pumper. Yes. So like it was noted earlier too, I mean, this is when you put it all together, the 4 firefighters, the peak ambulance for this year, the commitment from the administration, I hope in the future, the council to fund that 24/7 service, the firehouse that's coming up, all of that. I mean, we're talking about a upwards of $16 million investment into the fire department over the next coming years, which is just desperately needed to continue and improve upon the services that we're providing our residents, taxpayers.
So I've not necessarily as it relates to this resolution, but as it relates to some of the other items that are going to come before us this evening. I think that those debt service numbers, I think I requested those last week on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Was that in your
Yeah.
email? Okay.
And, I worked up my own estimates, but I think those numbers are critical for us to make determinations. Again, not necessarily about this particular item, but I'm looking forward to the next half dozen, 8 resolutions that we have. Combined total, taking paving out, which we know is reimbursable.
Yep.
We're looking at $17.6 million in spending, 16.1 for the fire department, and then another 1.5 million for that's the Eddie's Lane
Eddie's
pump
pump,
station,
yep.
right? Given the terms, probable useful life or whatever that is, assuming we're financing for that, I'm getting a debt service estimate of $1 million. So that's a further $1 million that has to come out of our budget annually. And this is all general fund stuff, right? Or at least all the fire department stuff.
Fire
is general
department
fund.
stuff is out of that general fund. Yes. And I think we have just to give the public and the council gearing up to go bonding outside of consulting our bond counsel on the legality of things. We do have fiscal advisors that we go over these buckets of funds and what we're going to do. And does it fit? Does it make sense for our portfolio? What have we done? What are we going to do in the future? Like I noted earlier too, the fact that we have been, which is not a bad thing, light on some of the bonding over the past several years. Now it's time to make that crucial investment. I would want to get you more of an exact breakdown from fiscal advisors that can work up those schedules and things. I did answer all the questions in your email. I apologize. I did not. That was 1 out of the 15 I think I missed. But so I can definitely get you that. But another thing too, you're authorizing this stuff, say like the Lansingburg Firehouse. And although of course that will have a future cost. This is a project that's going to be, come to fruition over the next 2.5 years. So we're not necessarily bonding for the 12.5 million when we go into July. I would just rather give you an accurate picture of what it looks like. I do understand for you, you'd like to see that to vote on this. I think you'd acknowledge too, though, when we're talking about, not having an ambulance, having, a rescue squad that needs a repair, we have 3 years wait time. I mean, I know one of your requests was even some information on the old firehouse, I believe, the Station 1, well, the soon hopefully to be old one. I mean, all you have to do is just walk in there. You don't even need a full engineer's report to see what in dire, terrible need we are to switch out of there. 1960s, I think, built to last 20-ish years. I mean, it's now 50 years old. When you talk about Eddie's pump lane, just to hit that too, we're talking about something that could affect 110,000 water recipients. Fire service, again, has not really been repaired except for some of the repairs we've done within the past year since the 60s. So we are, take it very serious when we're spending money bonding. But I think we would acknowledge too, if we're going to rank, crucial needs, these are very serious needs. And I just don't want to misspeak without, consulting fiscal advisors who can come up with the breakdown you're looking.
Understood. And I'm prepared to move forward with a number of these this evening, but I do have concerns that may be alleviated with that additional information. I'm sure we have bonds that are, would the phrase be matured, right?
Yeah,
Where we're almost
paying
done
off.
paying them off. Retiring, is that the phrase?
We retire bonds.
You retire bonds? Okay, so we have some bonds that
Retire
that may
bonds,
be
not
retiring.
Morrissey's.
And if those, if you could show me over the next 3 years that we have some bonds that are retiring and that offsets these costs, that's a different thing. But I mean, again, an extra $1 million, when I can't remember the number, but one of the first ordinances we did has somewhere between $500,000 to $750,000 hit to the annual budget. Now we're adding, again, if all of these were to be approved, an additional $1 million.
From your calculation.
From my calculation, and admittedly, I'm not a comptroller
Mhm.
or a lawyer. But, I did request that data, and I think it would be helpful to council members making decisions this evening to have that.
So unfortunately, I don't have that information to provide you this evening. That is something that I can get you because that's something that in consultation with fiscal advisors, they work up before we get to bonding. We have a lot of long and healthy conversations with them about how much we're doing, where does that stand, what, does this push it in a certain threshold, how does this affect future budgeting? I do know, I think one thing I've seen across the board politically up there, including the minority, there's been a lot of statements of getting, supporting our fire department, a lot of statements about the disrepair of Lansingburg Firehouse, a lot of statements about the staffing and the equipment. One of the things you're going to entertain here is radios. We don't want radios having indoor problems when our firefighters are fighting fires. So of course, we always have to be fiscally responsible, and that's key with us. But I think you would acknowledge voting no to most of these firefighter ones. We're talking about really taking a dent in our public safety, which kind of contradicts what I've heard from everybody across the board here, across the political line. So I'd really urge you to support all of them tonight. And
Thank you.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not suggesting that any of this is fiscally irresponsible. What I'm suggesting is we don't have the information to make that determination.
Right. You don't have the breakdown of the future.
Again, if you,
schedule, I
yeah,
understand.
and it's not just the debt service for what's in front of us this evening. If bonds are retiring in the next 2 years, 3 years, that, then that means that we're not taking the hit, especially like you said, the bonding for Station 1, we might not start making debt service payments until 2-3 years from now on that. So again, if you have our existing debt service schedule and you can show that, that's going to decrease by $1 million over the next 3 years, well, then there's no question that this is fiscally responsible, right? We're not taking a hit on the budget.
I totally understand the information that you're requesting, and I wish that it was provided for you on your ask. Like I said, that was one of the 15 questions I think that I somehow missed. I answered all the rest
You,
of them,
you
so.
did, and you did
and-
it in a timely manner.
And, we want you to have the information, especially on these crucial topics, but when we're talking to our fiscal advisors, those are things from fiscal advisors that advise us financially. Those are things they take into account too. That's why we pay them as it. So as much as you don't have that exact schedule in front of you, please know that there's thorough conversations and meetings discussing this bonding relative to our total debt portfolio.
I'm glad to hear that the people advising us have that information. I'd like to have it too.
Yes, and you deserve to have it, but I guess what Seamus is saying is that fiscal advisors is closely aligned with the city of Troy in keeping us solvent and is aware of our ability to pay. They have not red flagged these resolutions. On the contrary, I think they've supported them. So I just want to say that. I mean, if they had seen anything, they would have red flagged it. But you're still entitled to the information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
That's a good point, Councilman Vera. I think we should get which ones are going to be paid up, just so we get a greater picture. It's definitely good information. I just want to say as a whole, not just about the ambulances, but the other equipment we're talking about tonight, firefighters, when you don't have the proper equipment, which I lived through, Chief Salucci lived through, when the city was broke, we had some pretty bad equipment. And, firefighters can get injured or even lose their lives. Somewhere around there's a probationary shield floating around that's burned and bubbled and used to this day. That was my helmet. And it wasn't good. And it was because of the equipment. And it was so out of date and so bad. So, you can't operate a fire department with old equipment. You just can't. It's not like DPU, it's trucks. It's not like, garbage trucks. Maybe you could get through. This is real life and death stuff. So I'm so glad that since we've been on the council, a lot of us, that we've really made an effort to make sure that this fire department has had the best equipment they can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Council President, I'm going to
Councilmember.
recuse from this.
Okay, we have.
Do we need a reason? Don't we need a reason?
No.
No.
My son is a candidate for the Troy Fire Department, and to avoid the appearance of any impropriety.
Appearance of impropriety.
Yes.
Thank you. Wasn't necessary, but thank you. So we have 62 has been adopted, 6 ayes, 1 recusal. Resolution 63, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Casey.
That was Vera, sorry.
That was Vera.
Or Sorrento, I think sorry.
Okay. We'll say sorry to that. I heard it coming from over there. Discussion on 63. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. 64, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issue of 1.9 million serial bonds to finance the purchase of fire rescue vehicle and apparatus. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion.
Council President.
Councilmember Vera.
This is one of the bonds, given the amount and the term length, and the potential debt service. that I'm not comfortable voting on this evening without the information that I had requested.
Reiterate our support for it again, too. Keep in mind that these rescue squads, and then the chief, let the chief speak more onto it, more knowledgeable, is one of the most specialized piece of equipment that we have in the fire department, if not the whole entire city, frankly. Can take upwards of 3 years for them to come in. They have one of the longest run times as well. And if the chief could just explain exactly what this apparatus is.
Certainly. This is a rescue pumper. It's a little more than a normal pumper. It has all the capabilities of a pumper, but also has rescue capabilities, specialized unit. Carries our vehicle extrication equipment, our high and low angle rope rescue, water rescue, some hazardous materials and such. So it's a specialized vehicle. Right now, we currently have a 2016, which is by City of Troy standards, not so bad. However, our backup to that, and we only have one backup to that vehicle, is a 2003. Councilman Casey was there when we got that through Senator Joe Bruno and Distressed Cities Fund. So it's a 2003. So as the deputy mayor said, it's going to take approximately 2.5, probably a little more than 2 years from once we sign it. So 2.5 to 3 years to get the vehicle in. So we're looking at 2028, at which that point it will be 25 years old and probably older than 30% of the department at that time. So it's a crucial piece of apparatus that we would need to move on sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilmember Brosnan? No? Any other comments? I'm sorry, is there something you want to add?
Just that the payment schedule, for this apparatus would not begin until 3 years from now. Till we take delivery of it.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain
Abstain.
and recusal. So it's 4 ayes, 2 abstentions, and 1 recusal. Yes, right. Resolution 65, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Brosnan, second.
Second.
Fair. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 65 is adopted unanimously. Resolution 66, bond resolution of the City of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $600,000 serial bonds to finance the purchase of firefighting apparatus. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion.
Council President,
Councilman Vera?
this is for the radios, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this is to acquire the same system that Troy PD
It's
uses?
to work off the same 800 system that Troy Police currently have in place.
I had heard a story that on a recent, maybe it was a recent call, maybe you can elaborate on this, that the current radios that the fire department has, they weren't working. Firefighters
Correct.
use their own personal cell phones. Is that?
No, we did have a failure of our system a few weeks back for a little over 36 hours or so. We do have a contingency plan in place, which we utilize the county 800 system.
Okay.
Which is not ideal for our situation, which is why we're proposing this.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recuse.
We have 6 ayes and 1 recusal. Resolution 67. Resolution determining the proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan with a second by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted unanimously. Resolution 68, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $650,000 serial bonds to finance the fire department building improvements. By Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion?
Council President.
Councilman Vera?
Yeah, can someone give us a brief overview of the improvements that we're talking about? I noticed the city engineer is here. I don't know if he's available to. Only because I saw his name on the memo.
Okay. So it's $650,000 for stations 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then there is a resolution later on for $100,000, and that's specifically for Station 6. That has to do with the type of building it is, correct? So we have some significant needs up at headquarters, for instance, on 6th Avenue, our concrete apron in the front. We've talked about this last year.
Yeah.
That's in pretty rough shape, so we'll be looking to replace that. Additionally, Station 3 out on Campbell Avenue, that has not as bad as an apron issue, but still has an apron issue that we want to get that fixed.
Oh, even with the bridge project, we didn't
Right.
or closer to the building.
Yes.
Closer to the building.
Yes. And then also, so we have Station 4 and headquarters, a significant amount of repointing and masonry work that needs to be done in there. Station 4 with the heavy rains that we had just a couple weeks ago, we had having some of the plaster come down and due to water leakage in one of the bunk rooms upstairs. So we just need to get into some repointing and masonry work there, as well as some lesser masonry work at headquarters, a couple leaks there with the brick and masonry. So that's kind of where it stands.
Mr. Marini, did we get an estimate on any of this work at this point, or like what's your level of involvement been on these items?
Yeah, my level of involvement has been visiting each of these buildings personally, agreeing with the scope of work that the chief just suggested. And my understanding is that the former city engineer, Russ Reeves, solicited quotes for this work, but we haven't gotten updated quotes yet. We do plan to, as an output, this work out through request for bid.
So just so I don't have to pull you up here again, for this bond and then the $100,000 for the apron at Station 6, you think this is a healthy budget? Sorry, headquarters.
Yeah, headquarters is the apron. Station 6 is a separate bond, and that's for a significant amount of repointings and masonry work there.
Okay.
We did 2-3 years ago put almost $1 million into Station 6 down on Canal Avenue for the foundation and floor, and we don't want the bricks to fall on that nice floor.
Okay, but nonetheless, a healthy budget for both of these, the building improvement bonds.
Yes.
Excellent.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Recuse.
6 ayes, 1 refusal. Resolution adopted. Resolution 69, resolution determining the proposed action as a type 2 action for the purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolutions adopted unanimously. Resolution 70, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $7,400,000 serial bonds to finance the reconstruction of various streets in the city. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion.
Council President.
Councilman Vera?
do you have the CHIPS budget number, like off the top of your head? This is a fraction.
It is.
right?
Honestly, it's like 7 million. You're talking about the
Like,
smaller.
yeah,
one.
like
I
what we're sitting
apologize.
on for CHIPS, state touring routes, EWR, New York Pave, I don't know, POP.
The remaining balance.
Yeah, yeah, this isn't, it's gotta be more than this, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
That I can give to you by the end of the next meeting if you want.
And then obviously this is reimbursable with several months of lag, right?
Correct. It's reimbursable. Yep. And the intention that those bonds get paid off with reimbursement.
Right. In other words,
Mhm.
we're not going to be financing 7.4 million for 15 years.
Correct.
Right.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. Resolution 71, resolution determining that the proposed action is a type 2 action for the purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilman Vera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. Resolution 72, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of 1.5 million serial bonds to finance the cost of the reconstruction of the city water supply or distribution system. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion?
You want to bring Andrew up?
Yeah, can we
Yeah.
get a
Andrew?
presentation? Yeah. You can call it whatever you want, Andrew.
I know, I could try something.
Just tell us why we're spending 1.5 million.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that'll be an easy one. This is on, right? All right, so we'd like to get another pump and motor assembly at Eddie's Lane Pump Station. The large like workhorse pump and motor unit we have is a Alice Chalmers. It's an absolute unit, but it's from 1966. And that provides all the water to the Tibbetts Ave tank and into the upper high service area. So we're going to purchase another one of those and install it with your blessing. And from the rough estimates I've gotten, that can be around $700,000 to $800,000 for that unit. And then, installation cost, it's 4,160 volt motor. So we probably won't be installing it in-house. We'll probably get like a qualified electrical outfit. Maybe Ryan stop down. I don't know. So that's part of it. And the lead time on that, it's about 8 months once you order it to get that in. As well as I'd like to install bypass piping in case there's an emergency in the pump station. We'll have a second inlet and outlet for water in the pump station. We'll be able to use temporary, diesel bypass pumps outside while some of that work's taking place. So there'll be a significant amount of excavation and, we'll have to get Ys and valves and all sorts of stuff to install for that. Let's see. The 30-inch inlet pipe, the original inlet pipe that we're using now, the one that has the corrosion on it from the emergency declaration that we saw last year, to get a final structural repair for that. And that'll also come into play with that bypass piping. It'll be helpful to have that while we're doing the repair work on the current inlet pipe. And the rest of the remaining funds will be for, pipes, valves, diesel fuel, and the temporary pump rental while all that work's taking place.
Now, what if any work has taken place since I think it was back in January of last year? The emergency was declared. Have any expenditures taken place?
Yes. So we purchased a 10-inch and 12-inch rotary cone valve, 2 of them from Ross Valve. Those were forged and delivered, and they've been installed. So that part's in healthy shape right now. 2 of the 4 pumps, and then this money would be for some of the stuff for the other 2.
What do those valves allow you to do? Like isolate the system if it
So
fails?
that's when the motor when the motor kicks on, we want like a slow, we don't have soft start motors. They're just a single stage motor. It just cranks right up to, 3000 RPM or whatever. And to allow for us not to have any like water hammer related issues, the rotating cone valve slowly adjusts into like its pressure zone. So essentially just the valve pops out and it rotates slowly over about a minute and a half to full open. And then hopefully less things blow up out in our distribution system.
So then this is like the first large expenditure then, or certainly the largest expenditure up there.
This new, the new motor and pump you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be the largest expenditure. Yes.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Almost set.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously 7-0. Resolution 73, resolution determining that the proposed construction of a new firehouse or a new fire station building will not have a significant effect on the environment. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Keel, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion? All in favor? Resolution is adopted unanimously 7-0. Resolution 74, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of 12.5 million serial bonds to finance the construction of a new fire station building. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Keel, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion on the resolution.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
We heard from the administration that the financial people and the bond people have looked at these bonds. And I realize we don't have all the information, but they said there was no red flags. Let me tell you something. I walked into this firehouse in 1994, early 1994. It should have been torn down then. This is another example of throwaway, horrible 70s architecture like the old city hall that was basically a parking garage with carpet. This place was, some of the heating systems were replaced almost immediately. It looks like some kind of a moon station. It was just constant problems with sewage and everything. And now there's even more problems. This place is falling apart. There's no saving it. It should have been gone at least 20 years ago. So, this is just a big, big step. We haven't had a new firehouse since the new Central Station, which was a really long time ago. We really need to replace this. The people should not have to work in this environment. They have to come there. They have to spend 24 hours in this firehouse. And I urge anybody who wants to take a look at this building, just take a walk through. I'm sure somebody will show you. Nobody should be working in these conditions. So we need this firehouse. We need to build a new firehouse in Lansingburg. Thank you very much.
Council President.
Councilmember Brosnan.
The Burg definitely needs this. More specifically, the firefighters who are putting their life on the line every day need this. There's currently, unless something got fixed, there's no air conditioning. And every time it rains, they have a beautiful water feature that runs right through their barracks, which is very comforting for some, probably not the people who just spent 12 hours fighting a fire and need a place to sleep. So yeah, this one should probably get passed.
Council President.
Councilmember Keel.
This building, even when it was constructed, it wasn't constructed with the idea of having ambulance service in mind. So the setup is just not conducive to operating properly and having both a fire station and ambulance service and working both the vehicles. It just doesn't work. This is not it's not good for Troy anymore if we're going to continue to have ambulance service along with our fire department.
Thank you.
Council President. I have heard from several firefighters that station over there, it is in deplorable condition. And if Pesh ever came in and assessed the work site, the firehouse, we'd probably have some serious violations. And if those hello, if those violations do not get addressed from Pesh within a reasonable amount of time, you get fined. And these are most likely serious violations. You get fined per day on it. So I highly recommend, I really encourage us unanimously vote in favor of a new fire station that these firemen and women so desperately need. And also let's be proactive rather than reactive and avoid any violations if Pesh comes in and does a full-blown assessment on this building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President.
Councilman Vera.
I agree with my colleagues. I think that this fire station needs to be replaced. I worked when I was the city engineer with the now chief a little bit on the scoping of this new station. I don't know that it was located at this same spot, was it? Yeah. All right. Nonetheless, I know it's been in the works for years and it's needed. But again, I have to bring up the amount of this bond, and without the information that was requested, I think it's difficult for us to fully assess the financial impact of this. Again, if the data exists to show that the city can afford this, I welcome that. That's fantastic news. But that information should have been shared with the council.
And thank you. Are you done?
I am.
Okay. And furthermore, as far as my position, I am on record as definitely being in support of a new firehouse. We know that the existing one is unsafe. Our firefighters deserve it. However, we were elected by the people to be the stewards of the finances here. And it's our fiduciary responsibility to know the details. And we don't know the details. We don't know where 12.5 million, show us the budget. Show us where you arrived at this number. And it might be a different story.
So we can, Council President, a couple things. One, I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say that you support this project and that support the fire department by that voting it no. I do just want to make it clear
I respectfully disagree.
and I
with
would
you.
respectfully ask that you let me finish my statement, please.
And don't
So
attack me.
just like you were elected to have responsibility, our mayor was overwhelmingly elected as well to have financial responsibility, which we oversee every single day. They're also, at some point, you are here to do your diligence. We totally get that. And in all fairness, Councilman Vera did request this. It was a miss in his, 15 questions of asks. That being said, I just do want it to be clear for the public, that type of schedule is not something that always comes over with any type of bonding. That's not something that Andy would produce back then. So I do want it to be clear that you're not necessarily missing something. I'm sure there's council members, especially you, Council President, that have voted for many of bond without this schedule. Again, it is your right for all the information, Councilman Vera. I really do get that. But what we'd like to employ to all of you here is that, I have our architect from Labella that's been working on this, our fire chief, our city engineer that are involved, a budget. You are more than happy to get any of that information. Here in the administration, we're not just pulling numbers out of thin air. This is a long process. Again, Councilman Vera, you noted that as the part-time city engineer, you were involved in the beginning of this project at some other site and some other times. We're very proud to be the ones that are reviving it and bringing it back so it gets done. You're just doing a disservice to not only the Second Avenue corridor that could use this as an economic development catalyst, but our firefighters that fight every day. I just quite frankly think it's easy to put something out on Facebook that you support certain folks and then not actually do it with your actions.
That's
And
enough.
I just-
Thank you.
well,
I,
it's just-
I
it's
think
a
you need
true
to be
state-
respectful.
I'm
Thank
being
you.
honest, Council.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I may, Council President, a couple of things. I sat in your shoes for 8 years. Council President, you were also part of the council. Andy did not provide a debt service overview every time the bonds came before the council. In fact, Andy provided it after, because what you're doing tonight is authorizing the issuance. We aren't going to the bond market for $12.5 million. The 1.9, obviously, we have to go to bond for that because we're ordering the apparatus. That's different than this. Stating that you're not going to, even if you get that debt overview, you're not going to get a 12.5 mil because we're not going to issue 12.5 mil immediately. So the first, we obviously have to finalize the preliminary drawings. Then we have to prepare the construction bids. At most this year, we'll probably go to the bond market for $1.5 million or a mil, $500,000 or a mil. So saying that, and that's why we brought Labella, who will talk about the timeline and talk about the firehouse. But, you know, I think the deputy mayor, because we literally, have not bonded in my administration only for one item or two items that were on the capital plan from 2 years ago. B, you're not going to get a debt overview for the close to 17, 18 mil. You're going to get an overview for what we issue, which Andy would give at the end of the year or twice a year after we bonded. So saying that, what you're doing tonight is authorizing, because that's how it's done. We're not going to come back to the council 3 different times for 3 different bond issuances or authorizations, because that will also cost the city more money, because every time you go to bond, it costs more money. So saying that, we're only going to issue what we need for that project, just like any type of major construction. The Congress and Ferry, Councilmember Vera, you're aware, you authorized the issuance. We did not issue that total 11 mil. So what we're asking the council tonight is the authorization. We will get you your debt overview, just like Andrew Watkins from Financial Advisors, he stated. We didn't do this in the past. And Council President, you were on the council and didn't demand that debt overview in the past, but you authorized the issuance of bonding. And we will get you that debt overview. But that debt overview is not going to have give you that information tonight, because we're not issuing 12.5. We're not issuing those full bonds. So I would just ask the council, just if you don't support it, just say, I don't support it, but don't give, I abstain or whatever. You have that right. And I'm not being mean, Councilmember Spain McLaren, your son being a candidate is not a conflict of interest.
That's
I
your
have a
opinion.
nephew who is literally a police sergeant. I voted for the contracts and I asked for an opinion from Corporation Counsel, which really should have been asked prior to this, but that's your prerogative. All I'm asking, we need that 5th vote. The firehouse is from the 1970s. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And the 1.9 mil, Senator Bruno, Majority Leader, got us that rig in 10. So it's 15 years old. In fact, Eric Wisher has a picture. It was broken down last week. So we're asking for needed capital equipment, long-term investment. And I just ask the council to rethink their vote, please. That's all.
Council President.
Councilman Vera.
Yeah, unlike Congress Ferry, or the bonding for paving, which are reimbursable, this is not. The city takes on this debt. And I can't speak to other sessions of the council. I wasn't there for that. I'm not looking for the actual exact figures here. I'm looking for a good faith estimate of what the impact of this is going to have on the budget. I'm not voting no this evening because I'm not against either of these purchases. I'm not against purchasing a vehicle for 1.9 million. I'm certainly not against replacing Station 1 for 12.5 million. I do, however, have to abstain because I don't have the information that I requested. And that's not on me.
Council
Well,
President,
Councilman Keel?
I'd like to ask the administration if it is possible to obtain a little bit of that information for an overview for us here this evening.
Councilmember Keel, at 8:45 at night, unfortunately, no.
Okay.
You know, and I would just like to point out again, if we really cared about the project, if you really want to say no while staring at other firefighters that served in that dilapidated, falling apart house, why not ask? We have an architect here that came in from Rochester to talk about the project. You're not asking that at all. You're not asking about it. This is clearly a construed political point that you're all trying to make, and I would hope that you'd put politics aside, because a recusal and an abstention are clearly a cop-out vote. And I'd really hope that you'd put that aside for the betterness of our fire department. It's a great project, and it's just,
It's a
sad
project
to
we don't
see.
know anything about.
That's unfair and untrue. So which
No.
is it? You were part of it in the beginning, or now you don't know anything about it? Please.
Seamus,
That's
again,
inaccurate.
try
We're
to
here with
contain yourself.
estimates and all types of questions. I
respectful.
understand, Council President. I'm actually the deputy mayor, but, and again, I'm up here to speak on behalf of the administration and the residents that put us here. I did not just fall out of the sky. I'm sorry that we're passionate about this project because it is crucial for our fire department and that corridor. And I really hope that you could put these political feelings aside and vote with what's right for the fire department.
First of all, I want to commend Councilmember McLaren for her ethics. And I think this attack is totally unnecessary. We are elected to do our job, and we are doing our job. We are doing it. We are asking questions. We were given this legislation 7 days ago, right? Over a weekend. And
Misinformation machine. Sorry.
pretty soon you're gonna have to leave the room, Seamus. I really think you're out of line.
I would request the engineer who drove from Rochester.
I would
to
love
Cromwell
to.
Villa.
No one
And-
introduced him. No one mentioned he was here. I'm glad.
If you allowed us, he is here, and if you allowed us to speak, he would love to talk about the project.
Welcome to Troy.
Welcome to Troy.
Everybody hear me okay?
Welcome to Troy.
Well, I'm thankful to be here and I see there's a lot of angst in the room, but my name is Dan Peters. I'm an architect with LaBelle Associates. I've been working on this job on and off for about 3 or so years. Did start some work on this with Aaron a while back, and we did have a couple different options back then. We did land on this site we're currently on right now because it made the most sense. There are response times that have to be met as you build a new station. That makes sense as you determine its location and you have the ability to do that. You want to be able to better your response times. That's the whole point. And obviously it goes without, saying that the reason this station is developed and we were pulled in to help develop it is because it's needed. We're not here to spend people's money unless there's a, huge need to have it unfold. The dynamics of the station are top notch. As we've laid this out, we do a lot of stations across New York State and up and down the Eastern Seaboard. I've personally been involved with probably 4 dozen different
fire stations in the last 15 years. So I know the ins and outs of them. We have a team that's dedicated to do these station types, which we call essential facilities, of which we've laid out here. It's about 11,500 square feet. It's a 4 bay station. There are one bay that's drive-through. It's a 2-story that second story is meant for bunks and housing overnight. There are all the amenities that are required to operate the station. It is state-of-the-art. It will have radio signal. It'll have all the required EMS connections. It'll be it'll be up and out of currently this level or location in Troy. There is a floodway issue, and our site is just in one corner above it. So we will be bringing in soil to be out of that. So we meet the 2-foot elevation difference in delta. And it's going to just provide a much needed station for this community. So, I mean, I can answer specific questions, and we have a totally detailed breakdown of cost that we provided. We've called vendors to get quotes. We have back and forth emails from vendors to get those. We use our recent bidding, of which we probably had 6 stations in the last month bid. So we're very attuned to where these numbers need to lie. And we also know that this is going to occur in, a couple of years. It's going to take us 6 months after we get the nod to go ahead. It's going to take us 6 months to do the drawings. And then it's going to have to go out to bid. And then that's going to take an amount of time. But we have very detailed breakout of what this station is going to cost.
Would you be willing to provide that to the council?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Thank you for your.
Yes.
Does any of the council members have questions for Dan?
Council President.
Councilmember Keel.
If this were delayed, let's just say 2 months down the road, what kind of cost would that incur to the city by delaying this project?
Well, we've built in a contingency for escalation. It's a math equation based on recent, real data that we've gotten. So the percentage, I don't know exactly what it would be, but it's not going to go down. So the more time that goes on, I could probably articulate per month what it's going to cost, but it's got to be a few percentage points. I don't know exactly. I don't want to just throw a number out there. Okay. It's not going to get any cheaper.
So let's just say a few 3% on, what is it, 17 million? Or
No,
12.5 million.
That's correct.
That's a significant amount of money.
If we,
Something to think about.
I'm sorry, are you done?
To that question, it will delay the bonding and delay us going to market, which if we don't go in July, after July, it will cost more because January and July are the times that you go to market. And, Rick, you could weigh in terms of the cost to that, but the costs will go up.
I can't give you the exact cost, but if these are not approved tonight, then we won't be able to issue in July. And so
If we were to delay this until our July meeting, and
it's too late because we have to get the estoppel notice out more than 30 days before the actual issuance date. The issuance is usually around between July 20 and 25 or so.
Council President.
Councilman Vera.
Then I suggest we get the information we've requested. All right. Coming to us the last minute without the proper information and then trying to pressure council members into voting things along without the information they're requesting is unacceptable. And it's happened a number of times over the last 18 months.
Council President.
Council President.
Councilmember Brosnan.
I agree that the administration has come with short notice before. I don't believe this is one of those situations. if you don't see the need for this, then I don't understand what you're looking at. If you think that we can't afford this particular bond, then you don't believe this project can be done. So just vote no.
That's not the case.
That is specifically what you're saying.
No.
Council
No, it's not.
President.
Council
Irene
members.
has next.
Yeah,
Oh, apologies.
Excuse me.
I just have to
I'm
say-
running the show here, folks. I still have the mic. Thank you. Council member, sorry.
I just have to say, if you guys vote no on this,
No
look
one's
at
voting.
everybody in the audience in the eyes, especially the firemen, okay, that suffer day in and day out with that firehouse. Look at them in the eye and tell them that you're voting no. And don't sit here and say, I abstain, because that's just a way of saving face of basically voting no. So
Well,
just letting you know,
that's your opinion.
it's disgusting.
Council member. Farah?
Thank you. Again, I don't think I can be any clearer. It's not a no.
Obviously.
I fully support taking this project on if the administration can provide the financial backup to show that we can afford it. There's a lot of things that need to be done throughout the city, and they all cost substantial amounts of money. We have to pick and choose what we do, and I think that this is a project that needs to be a priority. But the information was requested, I don't know, maybe the day after I received the agenda, and we didn't receive it.
I would be willing to call a special meeting at the end of June. That still will give you time, and that will give,
It does not.
well, then why
Literally.
you box us in this
It-
situation?
It's not a box, number one. You received the information more than a week before today, so the 7 days. And Council President, you were with me on the council where literally we would get a phone call the day before meeting
I don't.
from the prior mayor, from the prior comptroller, and we did everything humanly possible to meet those demands. The unworking relationship, it's all talk and no action,
Well,
and that's the
a
problem
relationship
here.
takes two.
The relationship does take two, and we have literally bent over backwards to get the information to you. Secondly, as mentioned earlier, financial advisors did not provide the information because the information is not ready until we go to market. So the information that you're looking for, Councilmember Vera, once again,
No.
if you wouldn't get it until after the bonds are issued. We have not issued bonds during my administration other than the two that were from the prior capital plan. So to say and mislead the public and say, I did not receive the information in time. Believe me, I've been in your shoes. I've heard it all. This is politics at its worst. And if you want to deprive our public safety from a firehouse 50 years old in 25 years overdue being built, then just vote no. And an abstention, if you look up the definition, is a no vote. So please just put it to vote and look your firefighters in the face about their apparatus where one rig
We've already.
was literally broken down last week, 15 years old, and a firehouse. Politics at its worst. And guess what? This isn't about me. This is not a home run because the prior mayor couldn't get done. We
Thank
don't care.
Oh,
Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
all about getting a firehouse and turning this city around with long-term capital investment.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel, could you please speak to the timeframe for this?
So as I said, the estoppel notice needs to be out 30
30
days. And really that would be cutting it too close. Here's what I would propose. I could care less about the politics of this. I think this is a project that the city really needs,
And we
that
agree.
our firefighters really need. So what I would propose is this. This is what you're voting on is an authority for the city to issue $12.5 million of bonds. We will not be issuing $12.5 million of bonds by July 25th. I don't know how much we're going to issue, but I don't even know, maybe 1 million, maybe 1.5 million, somewhere around there. I'm not sure, just to get the project started. if we could commit, if the administration could commit to provide you, we'll have to consult with fiscal advisors, solid numbers on what the effect of the issuance would have on our debt service. I mean, I think if you could see your way to supporting this resolution, at least 5 of you could see your way to supporting this resolution, we'll get you those numbers before we issue the bonds themselves.
Thank you. And in addition to that, Dan, if you could provide us with how you arrived at this figure. I mean, that's part of our
Sure.
difficult.
Absolutely.
Our difficulty here is that we've been given a request with not enough information, and whatever you can provide would be helpful.
Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Council President Steele.
Councilman Casey.
We did hear tonight that, the people involved, our bond people, did look at this and they said there was no red flags. Yeah, it reminds me sitting here of what we went through for, a year and a half, not having the perfect numbers on the reports because of our comptroller issues and the old entry system. But I asked every time somebody came in front of us, I said, is there money missing? Is there red flags? Anything that really is concerning you? Every time they said, no, we just don't have everything perfect, but we don't see any money missing. The city isn't broke. But that excuse was used to vote down things like the Knickerbocker ice rink funding, which is a huge success for the kids and the citizens of Troy. Nobody said we're broke. Nobody said, oh my God, I looked. It's not, we don't got all the numbers, but there's all kinds of money missing. And in the end, you know what? After everything we heard, we found out everything was okay with Troy's finances. After all those months, we found out there wasn't one thing wrong with the finances, but we couldn't fund this and we had to vote no for that. Listen, nobody came in front of us and said red flag, because that would have been a red flag for all of us. The people who looked at this and looked at the future of our bonding, we heard tonight, the experts did not see any red flags at all. So that's why I'm urging a vote for the firehouse that should have been torn down years ago. That is an unhealthy work environment for our firemen who risk their lives, and they do risk their lives every day for this city. We need to vote yes on this tonight. Thank you very much.
Council President.
Councilman Berry.
Corporation Counsel. Can you describe again the scenario you just walked us through? What recourse does the council have if the administration chooses to not provide this information and chooses to move on without coordinating with the council once this is approved?
Well, first of all, the administration would be breaking its word to you. And I think my word is on the line too. So I don't see that as likely. I mean, there has to be a certain amount of, good faith and honor in conducting ourselves as public officials. I've always tried to keep my word to the council and to say things straight. So frankly, I think if you vote this, if you support this bond resolution, I don't think the administration has any choice but to provide you with the information that you've requested. To the best we can. I mean, because I think as the mayor rightly said, we're not issuing $12.5 million all at once.
No, the first draw would be to further final engineering and architectural design.
Correct.
Mayor, is that something you're comfortable providing the council?
Again, while you're there, if you wouldn't mind, if we were to have a special meeting on the 23rd of June, which is next Monday, that gives 5 weeks. That's
Well,
more than 30 days.
Between the 23rd, see, a lot of things have to happen. We have to get the official statement out. There has to be 30 days for the bond issuance itself. I'm not quite sure of whether that's before the official statement or whether that's before the actual money comes in for the bonds. But the 23rd to the 23rd of July is just cutting it too close. I mean, I've already spoken with our bond counsel about this previously, and I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe it would fit, but I would really hesitate to take the chance.
Okay, well, I think that clearly we're trying our best to work this out, and I wish that we had been provided the information. But
Council President Steele,
Councilmember Casey.
can I just ask the mayor a question? This was provided for us over 7 days ago.
Correct.
If the minority had let you know, we are voting no unless we receive this information, don't expect our yes vote unless we receive your this information before the meeting. Would you have supplied that information?
Whatever was available. Remember, fiscal
We did
advisors, the
request.
fiscal advisors even stated because we're not issuing the full 12 and a half, they would never do a debt overview for the full 12 and a half. So saying that, whatever fiscal advisors could provide, yes, we would provide it. The communication is always one way, unfortunately, Councilmember Casey. We've received nothing other than Councilmember Vera, no communication in terms of verbal, no phone call. If the council president, even if Councilmember Spain McLaren got a decision from Corp Council, normally if you recuse, you ask for a decision. Am I in conflict? That's normally how it goes. An abstention, if you look up the definition, it's a no vote. So if you want to vote no, just vote no. Councilmember Vera, you did request it, and I know that the deputy mayor did state because we weren't issuing the full bonds. So, you know, once again, if we were asked and said, guess what, you're not getting a fifth vote, we would have asked for whatever they would have been able to provide. But it might not have been to your satisfaction, but, you know, we would have obviously tried to get whatever information.
Council President,
Councilman Vera.
I just want to reiterate, though, that I have your assurance that you will provide that information. And in the meantime, the only draw against this is
The
for
12 and a half,
A&E.
the final design
Okay.
and the construction bid documents.
Sorry? I thought I heard 500,000.
It's half
Half a
it's
million.
half a million. And just to, not to keep rehashing this all too, and I stand by what I said, but I will also stand by that. You know, you shot a lot of questions. That is, you know, was not my intention to not provide the information to you. Frankly, it's not. We are committed to sending it over to the best of what's available. I just want to triple down on the word here because I do believe, like what our Corp Council said, you know, at some point we have to have some faith in one another here. So,
And again, you did provide quite a bit of the information that was requested.
because that was
Yeah.
my intention to inform you.
And I want to clarify that that email was a compilation of the three of our questions, so that we had caucused and came up with those questions. So that did represent our views and what the information that we needed. Is there anyone else who wants to comment? I think that a lot of harsh words have been used tonight, unfortunately, unnecessarily, and I'm not happy to see that. I think that we should act as professionals and not be, especially when someone is trying to uphold their ethical beliefs. I will take a slow roll call. Councilmember Keel,
Yes.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Aye.
Councilmember McLaren.
I am still recusing myself.
Thank you. Councilmember Vera,
With the mayor's reassurance is yes.
Councilmember Soriento,
Yes.
Councilmember Casey.
In full support of my firefighter brothers, I vote yes.
And I echo that. I fully support the work of the firemen and have always believed that we needed a new firehouse. I also take my responsibilities very seriously, and I believe that the citizens of Troy expect that of us. We need to have the information when it's requested. It should be provided in a timely fashion. We're not supposed to be making decisions in a vacuum. I would hope that the mayor would see we have moved this evening, and I would hope that would signal to you in the future. Perhaps we'll know less than 40, more than 45 minutes where the new city hall will be.
You know, and the council president, why even go down this path? Like,
Well,
you speak of goodwill and then you smack. Honestly,
it takes two.
let's just move forward.
It takes two.
That's what I'm all about.
I am too, and I'm hoping that we can. The resolution before us has been adopted 6-1. Anyone want to take a break, or do we want to?
No, let's just.
We're almost done.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we're going to move right into the special meeting.
Still have resolutions.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
We want to take a break just after we get done.
Okey doke, let's continue. Resolution 75, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for the purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
We're going to give that to Councilmember Soriento with a second by Councilmember Vera. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution 76, bond resolution of the city of Troy authorizing the issuance of 100,000 serial bonds to finance Fire Department Station 6 building improvements. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Brosnan with a second by Councilman Keel. Discussion.
Council President, I just wanted to advise the council that the reason this was broken out from the prior resolution with the 750,000 was because this Fire Station 6 has a different PPU because it has a wood frame construction underneath the bricks.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recuse.
6 ayes, 1 recusal. Resolution is adopted. Resolution 77. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with EHS Risk Management for the purpose of developing and implementing a safety management system for the departments of the city. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion. Do we understand this is a result of the fire study?
This is not a result of the fire study. This is a result of a separate RFP that was put out that deals with risk management across the entire city. It's not something that from everybody that's been here for a bit that recall ever having done. I sometimes liken what we're trying to do here to combat. There's probably some, dusty binders and some garages and some protocols. This whole entire plan with this risk management, they'll do an assessment for the city to make sure to evaluate where we're most at risk, what liabilities are there, how do we make it a safer workplace? They will then design and implement various protocols and systems. What is exciting about this specific proposal, which was one of the things that we were looking for, is it definitely has a good digital aspect to it. I keep explaining that if one of our staff members is out in their work truck and something happens and they want to see, okay, what are the next steps to what just happened? It's an app they can go and get on their phone. So there's stuff like that that's going to be built everywhere, from lockout protocols to safety equipment, how we wear it, what the procedures are. I will note too that, seeing that this hasn't been done at the city of Troy before, and I know we've talked about a lot of exciting stuff and we're ending on the excitement of risk management, but it really is an exciting item. I will tell you that our insurance carrier really liked it when we were gearing up to shop our premium. The unions have also asked for it as well. It's something that I think CSCA specifically has been pushing for many years. So we did put that proposal out and really look forward to see how it goes. One, so I may have heard it come up during the budget transfer and I just popped in my head. So once we do get to that ongoing program management, that's quarterly. It's not necessarily that we keep them on forever too. It would be something that we could eventually separate from them once everything is fully is designed, tailored to Troy. Staff's aware of how to utilize it. They also are, would be willing to do, or they could come in and do an engagement of kind of a check-in after we get there. But, we definitely have to, there's a lot, like many things here. It's been an item that's been left by the wayside and not taken on. So that's definitely something that, we look forward to engaging them on and building us up to to 2025 and just make it a safer workplace for the staff and to limit liabilities. I know.
And what's the price tag on that again?
So the total here is, I want to say 87,000. To start up. That pretty much should get us through that, those initial tasks.
And then that becomes an annual expense?
It could actually become a quarterly expense if we so to keep them on, but you're really not, we're just looking for that startup so then we can evaluate after they do that assessment, build the protocols, the digital procedures, like I said, and then, help staff with training and get them on board. And at that point we could evaluate, but this before you and that budget transfer is really what gets it up and going. And then we can decide if it has value quarterly after the fact. And at that point, yes, it would become a budgeted expense.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. Resolution 78. Resolution to preserve essential social security, Medicare and Medicaid services. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Keel. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Barrett. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Now, do you want to take a break?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion to take a break.
Here.
Ready.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look the lights.
Huh? I just sent you Jared Behringer's. Okay. All set? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of the Troy City Council. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Keel,
Present.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Present.
Councilmember Spain McLaren, Councilmember Vera,
Present.
Councilmember Soriento.
Here.
Councilmember Casey,
Present.
Council President Steele.
Present.
All are present.
At this point, we have a public forum. Anyone who wishes to speak and address the council on any agenda item is welcome to come forth and provide your name, address. Does anyone wish to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move along to the agenda. Ordinances.
Ordinance 27, ordinance amending the city of Troy zoning map to change the zoning district of property known as 74 New Turnpike Road, tax map parcel number 70.74-1-1 from single family neighborhood to development intensity to planned development district. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Member Brosnan. Second,
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion?
Council President Steele.
Casey?
I just want to quickly say that since I heard of this project when we, in committee, Councilman Vera and I and Seamus and different people in that group heard of this idea. I just thought it was the best. It's, if you wanted to downsize, you could move into one of these tiny homes. It's for seniors. And I just thought it was just a very unique and just a great use. It's not the typical idea. I didn't expect it. And I just can picture it in my mind, nice little streets with little homes with a bunch of older people living a quiet life. And it's the best idea I think I could have imagined for something that's just been an eyesore forever. And that's the old Leonard Hospital site. Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 27 passes.
Ordinance 28.
Ordinance 28, ordinance amending the 2025 budget by appropriating funding from the general fund unassigned fund balance to the general fund operating budget. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 28 passes.
Ordinance 29.
Ordinance 29, ordinance authorizing the deduction of monies from the general fund unassigned fund balance, authorizing the creation of a capital project and amending the general fund and capital projects fund to appropriate funding to said project. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan.
Second.
By Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 29 passes.
Ordinance 30.
Ordinance 30, ordinance authorizing the creation of a capital project in the capital projects fund, appropriating funding from the unappropriated fund balance of the water fund for the purpose of said capital project and amending the water fund and capital projects fund budgets for said capital project. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 30 passes.
Resolution 57.
Resolution 57, resolution appointing a commissioner of deeds for the city of Troy. Council President Steele.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Vera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, resolution 57 passes.
Resolution 58.
Resolution 58, resolution of the city of Troy recognizing Juneteenth. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Keel, Councilmember Brazen, Councilmember Spain McLaren, Council President Steele, Councilmember Vera, Councilmember Soriento at the request of the administration.
Since we're all on it, we'll just say all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, resolution 58 passes.
Resolution 60.
I'm at 59.
And pass. Resolution 60, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Boys and Girls Club of the Capital Area Incorporated for the purpose of providing trained personnel to administer and operate the South Troy Pool Facility through September 1st, 2025. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Rivera,
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, resolution 60 passes.
Resolution 61.
Resolution 61, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Vera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, resolution 61 passes.
Resolution 62.
Resolution 62, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $350,000 serial bonds to finance the purchase of an ambulance. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Rivera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recuse. Just bear with me with all these because it's going to take me a while to click them all. 6 ayes, 1 recusal, resolution 62 passes.
Resolution 63.
Resolution 63, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Is that everybody? Okay. 7 ayes, 0 nos, resolution 63 passes.
Resolution 64.
That didn't pass. Resolution 65, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 65 passes.
Resolution 66.
Resolution 66, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of 600,000 serial bonds to finance the purchase of the firefighting apparatus. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recused? 6-1.
6 ayes, 1 recusal, resolution 66 passes.
Resolution 67.
Resolution 67, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Member Vera with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, resolution 67 passes.
Resolution 68.
Resolution 68, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authoring the issuance of $650,000 serial bonds to finance the fire department building improvements. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6
Seven.
ayes, 1.
Oh,
I'm
that
sorry.
was a
1
recusal.
recusal.
6 ayes, 1 recusal, resolution 68 passes.
Resolution 69.
Resolution 69, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Vera with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 69 passes.
Resolution 70.
Resolution 70, bond resolution of the City of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of 7.4 million serial bonds to finance the reconstruction of various streets in the city. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Vera, seconded by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 70 passes.
Resolution 71.
Resolution 71, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 71 passes.
Resolution 72.
Resolution 72, bond resolution of the City of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $1.5 million serial bonds to finance the cost of the reconstruction of the city water supply of distribution system. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 72 passes.
Resolution 73.
Resolution 73, resolution determining that the proposed construction of a new fire station building will not have a significant effect on the environment. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Kale at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion?
Council President,
Councilmember Vera.
at sacrificing the speed at which we're going through this. We have all the information. I did notice this at the finance meeting. The backup that was sent to us it doesn't include part 2 of the seeker form. So I think just for the record, we should simply state that the council's by voting in favor of this, the council's responses to those 11 or 12 questions are all no or small impact, I think is what the box says. Is that correct? It's a short form, right? So it's just the 11 or 12 questions. Yeah, right.
That's right. It's a short form and we've contacted and submitted documentation to SHPO and their Chris website. And so it's a
Okay.
short form.
Just so that when you going back later to do your paperwork, it was discussed at the council meeting and the council members by voting are voting in favor of that.
There's. All right, my fault. So you expect part 2 to be actually.
Part 2 is the part
included, is that with you?
that the lead agency making the determination
Want
is
to
supposed
print
to
it
fill
out
out.
and send to you.
Right.
You can fill it out.
Typically it
Or
would be
be
filled
pre-filled,
out, it would be
say.
filled out by city
I
staff
see what you're
in
saying.
advance of the
Okay.
meeting. It's a very
I
minor
understand, but
thing.
Yeah, okay.
It's an unlisted action. We have all the necessary documentation. I'm just for the records, so we don't find ourselves back here. I don't think we need to be back here for this.
There will also be a part.
Noted.
3
There will be a part 3.
that the council president will sign.
Yes.
To vote.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7, right? Is this
Right.
one 7? 7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 73 passes.
Resolution 74.
Resolution 74, bond resolution of the City of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $12.5 million serial bonds to finance the construction of a new fire station building. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Keel at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm still recusal, and it's not because I meant to vote no.
Thank you.
6 ayes, 1 recusal. Resolution 74 passes.
75.
Resolution 75, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 75 passes.
Resolution 76.
Resolution 76, bond resolution of the City of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $100,000 serial bonds to finance Fire Department Station 6 building improvements. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Verera. Getting late. Any discussion on 76? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And one recusal.
Yes, I don't understand which ones. 6 ayes, 1 recusal. Resolution 76 passes.
Resolution 77.
Resolution 77, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with EHS Risk Management for the purpose of developing and implementing a safety management system for the departments of the city. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 77 passes.
Resolution 78.
Resolution 78, resolution to preserve essential social security, Medicare and Medicaid services. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Keel. Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan, seconded by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 78 passes.
At this point, we have a public forum that is open to anyone who wishes to address us on any item, not necessarily an agenda item. Thank you, Dan. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion.
That was quick. By
Aye. Let's go home.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was Brosnan and Vera.